customized.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
If
a needless
Gonzalez went, if this happened, it didn't. Is that guy the 19-year-old booty? Does that player still exist?
Careful with that 19-year-old booty. You can get in trouble.
Gets you in trouble.
Bring Greg and Evan, and they can have their little talk, and they can break it all down.
Their little talk.
If we're going to criticize the guy who left for his pompous arrogance, and we're not going to point out the fact that the guy that would replace him had a temper tantrum because he's insisting that he knows more about football than Bill Belichick. And once Bill Belichick gone, that's, to me, a little bit of a disconnect. You think you know more than Bill, and you want Bill out, and you didn't disagree.
I think I know enough to have an opinion that's different from Bill.
As I said before, most of the stuff I was saying I've already said to you. But this one was new.
Audrey says, great draft shows again. I will always listen to you live, my top choice. And Mike was even funny this year.
Audrey's always up my butt.
Yeah, but this is supposed to be my box, so I don't know how anyone could even get in here.
Somebody's messing with Fred's box.
Leave Fred's box alone.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Fueled by Duncan.
All right, we are live here at Gillette Stadium, Patriots Unfiltered, and yes,
Big day for you.
Big day for Deuce, Star Wars Day, and Fred's out, so I get to host. So people are tuning in. Hopefully, I don't scare anybody away.
See, your boy Kyle Brandt is all dressed up in costumes.
I know. Well,
must be why you guys are so.
I didn't go full
friendly.
Han Solo, but I did wear my new T-shirt that I bought with my birthday money. My grandma sent me a $25 check
for your 12th birthday.
I was like, I need a good Star Wars shirt, so I like this one. If you're on video, you can see, a little old school kind of thing. I haven't thought about dressing up too, but
I did.
Gotcha. So anyway,
I got my Death Star pop socket.
All right, that's
what I got.
That's not good enough, but hey, you got Star Wars questions, you have Star Wars comments. Call in. This is the only day they'll be acceptable here while I'm in the host chair. We're allowing it, despite Paul. He's gonna
Are you
roll
kidding
his
me?
eyes.
Fred,
But he loves this.
Fred spends
No, he does.
countless hours on this topic.
It's kind of too bad because Fred likes Star Wars. I was hoping we could get him to dress up like Han Solo.
He usually
or
does wear a
Chewbacca
T-shirt.
or something.
Well, he's like Chewbacca every other day.
What, like his body hair or what?
Just this incoherent babble was what I was going with.
But you're like the Han Solo who actually understands it, and you can get through it, and they're like, no, I know what he said.
I'm not part of this in any way.
All right, well, we'll be here for the next 2 hours talking Patriots, getting going a little bit on the draft guys. I know Evan's been writing a lot of film reviews. We've all been talking to their coaches, so we're getting some more insight onto those players. But I think the big news of the day to start off with was Mike Vrabel was announced yesterday as the, the 34th? 34th.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
34th, that sounds right to me. Inductee into the Patriots Hall of Fame. I did a big rant about it. Well deserved. He's been, on the finalist committee or finalist list for too long. So
Seven
nice.
times a charm.
7 times a charm for the coach from Tennessee. So we'll see how it all works out in terms of ceremonies and all that kind of stuff to get Vrabes into the Hall of Fame. But when you look at that, first dynasty, he was just such a key part of that defense, such a key part of just the attitude.
Absolutely.
And also just one of those guys that kind of started this trend of, getting a guy from another team that, and I don't want to misstate it because talking to Vrabel, he had an opportunity to go back to Pittsburgh. It wasn't like he just fell off the map there. I think it was just, who was the name of the outside linebacker that just beat him, who everybody knows who's awesome? Not before Joey Porter, there was an outside linebacker, I'm blanking on his name, one of the famous Steelers that came in with Vrabel.
Kendrell Bell?
Maybe, but he said, I think Vrabel said he got a little quicker than me, so it opened up an opportunity to come here to New England. But I do think he embodies some of that. Hey, we get a guy who maybe you sign in free agency, not a lot of buzz, but he comes in and ends up, just being a core championship piece for I think it was 7 or 8 years that he was here.
Yeah, I think it was a great pick. I think, to me, of the 3 finalists, he clearly stood above the other 2. I think all 3 are deserving. We don't have to get into that. But I think Vrabel was clearly the choice out of those 3, and I'm glad he finally got in. It will be interesting. You sort of touched on this, Mike. It'd be interesting to see how we're able to honor him with the ceremony, since he is an active head coach in the league. Wouldn't necessarily think it would be the normal, late July, early August time frame. So we'll see how they get that done.
It's too bad they couldn't do joint practices here and just bang them out in the summer, after afternoon. I think rumors headed to Tennessee, maybe. Rumors headed to Packers. We can talk about that as well. But, yeah, I'm just happy for Vrabel. And it just felt, of all the guys to kind of string along, he's like the worst because he has no filter. Like he's just gonna call it like it is. So
That
you know?
that's sort of what I'm looking.
But hey, we'll throw in Mike Vrabel too. I think some of the light that was shined on that later was, Vrabel saying it was an opportunity for me to go to another organization and learn from other coaches and, start to really kind of build his foundation for coaching that he went to Ohio State and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a strange trade, but, you wonder if Kansas City wanted a little something more, for the second round pick. But, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a disappointing ending to his career, and they all talk about it. Most of them, that's how it ends.
Yeah.
Most of them don't get to write the final chapter exactly the way they want it. But it all worked out.
Just a call from Bill. Yep, we traded you. That's
right.
And that's kind of, well, I should say too, I know I got 3 of the green teamers here. Celtics, are we all feeling pretty good right now, guys?
Yeah, I mean, that was
better.
that was the appropriate response, right?
I don't know. You tell me, Paul.
Yeah.
Play to your capabilities. That's all anybody asks.
Yeah, the Celtics are fine. Celtics, I already have them in the NBA Finals.
And how are we doing, Evan, about the Bruins? We didn't bring it up on Tuesday
It's
for
tough.
you, but
it's tough.
It
You
was
know
still
what?
too soon for him.
Do you know what's tough is that last night I'm watching the Celtics do their thing and I'm excited, but there's part of me that's like, this is supposed to be with the Bruins.
Missing out on something.
Right. This is like they were supposed to do this together.
Hand in hand.
This was not supposed to be a one car race here, right? Like this was supposed to be 2 racing together. So it does hurt that the Celtics are the lone show again, just like last year, honestly. So yeah, it's been a tough couple days in the Lazar Gertin
How have you been
apartment.
coping?
You know what? It's funny. It's
film study?
It for me, I've been busy, so that definitely helps. But it hits you like weirdly, just at weird times, where you're just like, oh crap,
Sounds
like that
a-
happened.
Sounds like a breakup.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to keep yourself busy after a breakup.
Yeah.
Go to
Like
the
some
gym.
song will
Evan,
come on.
I want you to really focus
You
on
know,
yourself the next
Like
couple
Evan was
weeks.
just like, he's walking to the grocery store and Zombie Nation came on and he was like, oh, God.
I've always been a big Bruins fan. I've always watched the majority of their games, but this regular season was just so electric. It was must-watch TV every single game. I mean, I'd say that we probably watched 80 of 82 regular season games this year. I mean, it was every night, and then we went to a bunch of games too. So this one hurt. It did.
Yeah.
It
All
hurt
right,
a
well,
lot.
we don't need to belabor it. And
Thank you.
I should mention, too, Evan, and I think Alex will head out. We're going to hear from Mike Gesicki today, another free agent
Yes.
in the line of free agents. We talked to Juju on Tuesday, and now they're also going to do a conference call with Mike Vrabel, get his reaction, which I think we're all looking forward to. And then I was just say, Alex, what have you been up to? Because you've been out and about with a lot of different
know,
social stuff,
right?
a lot of different players that have been hanging around. What's been going on?
The CR team had an event every single day leading up to the draft, so I'm just trying to come down after the last couple weeks. But yeah, I actually got to meet a lot of the new guys last week, the free agents, new signings, at this awesome video game event that was put on for children of military families. So that was a good way for guys like Gesicki, Juju to kind of get acquainted to all the stuff we have going on here off the field for them.
Get ready. And I know, and I just saw some footage of Christian Gonzalez. He's back working out. I know we've all been talking to various coaches as we get caught up. Is there anything so far that you guys would like to share that you've
That'd
learned
be a
about?
better
some-
Evan question,
Evan,
because
I
I
know-
haven't really been able to touch base with any of my guys yet.
Yeah, I can some. But Evan, I know you did Gonzalez.
Yeah,
and,
Gonzalez, Demario Douglas, and Tony Maffei yesterday with his offensive line coach at UCLA. I think the biggest one with Gonzalez, I had a pretty good talk with Demetrius Martin, and we'll publish it with all the quotes and everything here in the next couple days, but just about his demeanor, his play temperament. I think there's a lot of question marks about his physicality and about his competitiveness, and he's a subdued guy. He's a quiet, soft-spoken person. He's not Richard Sherman. He's not a rah-rah, in-your-face, I'm the greatest thing ever type of corner. And I think the big thing that Martin said, unprompted, said to me was, it's a lot like Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And I had already thought of that when we sat down with him when he came in that Friday after the draft, but I didn't want to put that on the kid to be like, oh, he's going to be like Stephon Gilmore, because that's a lot of expectation. But I think that from a personality standpoint, he has this quiet confidence about him that was very similar to Steph. When you were in a scrum with Steph, you couldn't hear him.
Yeah, I know.
You had to be in the front.
But if you
had
were
to be
in the
up front.
if you were in the front of the scrum and you actually listened to the things that he was saying, the dude was cocky
He
as
was
hell.
very cocky.
That's
Yeah.
Paul's favorite thing. He just says it
He was
quietly.
Quiet cockiness.
He was my favorite interview in all the years
He
that I
was
did it because of
fantastic.
that.
I love talking ball with him. He was awesome, and he would just come right out and say it. I remember after they played the Eagles in Philly, that game that Brady was grumpy afterwards because the offense didn't play well, but they still won the game. And in a couple key situations, they moved Gilmore onto Zach Ertz just because that was the Phillies' go-to guy on third down. They didn't really have anybody on the outside at the time, and he basically just said it was easy. He was like, Gilmore was like, well, it's much easier than covering a receiver. He's slow. He's slow.
I used to do things. I used to do like matchups for, key matchups during the week, heading into games. And I remember talking to him about one in particular, and I'm not going to say the name. But, I was like, so, what kinds of challenges does he, present?
Yeah.
And he said, none.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only it was, none really.
Yeah.
That's how he said it. Was like Richard Sherman would be at a podium saying, Michael Crabtree, you can't put a sorry-ass receiver on me,
Yeah.
Steph was saying the same thing, just coming across in an entirely different way.
I think I know who you're talking about, but we don't have to say the name.
Okay.
He's not on the team now, is he? I don't know.
This guy.
I just threw it out.
Now, why would you automatically go there?
I don't know.
But yeah, no, the guy that I know that he said that about is not on the team.
All right,
so
okay, good.
don't-
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking back to J.C. Jackson kind of rolling his eyes about
yeah.
somebody at
So
one
it's-
point.
Yeah, but that was the big takeaway from that one, I felt like. And the other thing that he mentioned, which I thought was, as soon as he said this, I was like, oh God, this is so Patriot. Like he said that he kept Gonzalez's notebooks to show freshmen coming in, this is how you take notes during meetings. And he said that Gonzalez's notebooks were organized, color coded, like everything just, completely perfect. And he was like, that's what I want my young guys to emulate. And obviously with Gonzalez being a first round pick, it's easy to get guys on board when you say, hey, this is what Christian Gonzalez did and look at where it got him. Yeah. And these guys come in and they say, well, I want to be drafted in the first round too. Right. So they go ahead and they mimic it. That was the big thing from him. I think, with Mafi, we talked a lot about Bill Belichick's relationship with Chip Kelly and how after the Shrine Bowl, Coach Belichick called Coach Kelly, and they had a long talk about some of the UCLA guys, and Mafi's name was one of the big names that
was Jake Bobo one of the big names too.
He didn't mention anybody else. He just said it.
I'll just assume it was.
I don't because in my back of my head I was thinking DTR, Bobo. Like were there other? What did he say about DTR? Because they obviously didn't draft
Charbonnet. Was he one of the running backs?
I don't think he was at the Shrine Bowl, but he was a UCLA running back.
Gotcha.
And he said that based off of the conversations he had with Chip that Coach Belichick was really, really high on Mafi coming off the Shrine Bowl. So one of those guys that if you had known that back then, he would have been in all of our mock drafts, for the next 6 months. So that was interesting. I'm trying to think who was the Demario Douglas. I got a lot of Marcus Jones, but on offense, right? Those types of plays. Maybe not quite as dynamic as Marcus in the open field, but that's the idea that a lot of people thought of. And one thing that was interesting about him was that the Patriots went into the Shrine Bowl wanting to coach Demario Douglas, and the Shrine Bowl director, Eric Galco, said to me, they handed me a list of like 10 to 15 guys. Most of them were guys that were big names that were going to get drafted in the first, 3 or 4 rounds of the draft. And then randomly they just had Demario Douglas on the list, and he just said, I had to tip my cap. Like, that's good scouting. Like, this kid is a good player. And so they had him on the radar because of the Malik Willis season the year before, and they wanted to coach him as well. So a couple of guys there from the Shrine Bowl that I think the Patriots were all over, even back in January.
Yeah, I've done a couple. I talked to Mapu's coach, who was his defensive coordinator at Sacramento State, and then was promoted to head coach this last year, but interestingly enough, grew up with Drew Bledsoe. His dad coached with Drew Bledsoe in Walla Wallace. Of course, I had to,
There's so many Patriots connections. I know.
I wrote a whole little thing about it.
It was a good piece.
With San Mateo and Mafi, going to the school with where Brady went, of course.
Yep.
Junior Seau.
The Junior Seau connection, which was another thing that we
Mafi's
uncovered.
also Devin Asiasi's cousin.
Cousin.
Yeah, randomly.
City Sal was talking about all the Patriots fans up in Quebec, but I stopped listening after he said he was a Canadians fan. Like, I don't care what you have to say. No, that should be week. There should be some fun in the locker room this year with that, with him being a Canadians fan.
Get him to speak French too.
Yeah,
he speaks beautiful French.
Oh, it's a beautiful language. I've reached out to Deion Sanders because I think everybody probably saw Isaiah Bolden, the tweet about Isaiah Bolden that Deion Sanders put out. I'm not hoping to get him. Reached out to Jackson State's new head coach as well, who was with the team last year. But these are the kind of things we do after the draft. We try to reach out to these coaches, and you always get, as Paul jokes, you get a very favorable opinion of these guys. Of course, they love their guys, they want them to do well, but it's just interesting to learn about their journey to getting to this point.
That's why, when I talk to them, I'm less interested in what they think of them as players, although obviously I ask those questions, but I'm more interested in the personality and their interactions with their teammates and
the
whatnot.
background.
Yeah.
That's really, I'm the same way. It's just tell me the story of the player, because these guys, there's no way that we're going to know some of the details that these coaches are going to know. And it's cool to hear a lot. Demetrius Martin told me that he tried to recruit Gonzalez to Arizona originally and didn't get him. He ended up committing to Colorado, and then it just so happens that Martin ended up getting a job at Colorado a year later, and then ended up coaching Gonzalez for 3 years anyways. So it's just kind of those connections and how those types of things tend to work out. And then tomorrow I got Jim Nagy He's gonna give me a call, and we're gonna talk about Jake Andrews and some of the Senior Bowl guys, and see what he has to say about the draft in general as an ex-Patriot exec scout.
I mean, interested to see what they say about Mapu, because I mean that was something I talked to his coach about. He was a late call up, and I made some impression. I mean, you should check out Evan's piece that he wrote about him today. A lot of focus on his performance there in the practice. I think he only played a half, though. He got a little bit of an injury. I mean, I know that's a concern about the torn pec. He said he should be available by training camp, but otherwise very durable player. The coach said he's every game, every practice. He was always there. And got a little bit of interesting bits too. Talked to Eastern Michigan coach, of course, City Sal, and the kicker Chad Ryland both spent time there. I can't keep track of all these guys. There's too many.
There's too many this year.
Wow.
12 is too many.
Also, the NIL situation and all these guys. Like Gonzalez was 2 years at Colorado, then Oregon, and no one's at one school.
I think all 4 of my guys, were at multiple schools.
Yeah.
I really like what the coach said about Ryland, though. The quote I shared with Paul was he said he came out of the womb mature. Like, he's just a mature kid, unflappable. I mean, it's all the things you would hope from a kicker.
You kind of get that sense from his interview, though, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen him yet. I haven't met him, but he looked really young to me. That's why I'm trying to, kind of circle all that back of, he's really mature, but he looks like he's, 14 years old.
It is one of those things that you'll start – now that you're starting to get a little older, Mike, you'll start to see just how much younger they all look.
I appreciate it.
Well, that's how I already feel. Because when I started doing this, I'm the same age as these guys, maybe even younger in some cases. And now I'm just
Wait till you're older than every professional athlete currently playing.
Alex, I don't think you and I can talk quite yet. We're
still.
You guys are veterans. You're veteran age now, though. Like, if you're playing sports, you're not the young bucks. You're
exactly.
You're heading on your prime.
I am Dietrich Wise's age.
Yeah,
we are the same age. How?
I think about this a lot with players. Like Matthew Judon and I are roughly the same age. Matthew Judon,
look at that man compared to you.
I'm just like, what? Wait, what?
Oh, or you see these guys that were born in 2000.
Yeah,
I'm like, I was already an adult by that point.
Yeah, I just look at Judon and I look at myself and I'm like, I'm a child in comparison size wise.
What was in his water?
Yeah, right. And I
think Brandon Merriweather was the first guy that I watched him, when we had the whole dog and pony show on the field when Robert and Jonathan bring him out, and I was looking, I was like, he's a baby. And that was what, 07?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when it kind of hit to me, I'm obviously I was older than all of them at the start, but I'm way older than all of these guys now, and it's
I don't think
getting more and more pronounced every year.
I don't think anything's as striking as that introduction, just because I think it's usually a kid who isn't used to that, being put on the stage, and and it's funny because the Q&A, they don't even, it's not like they give them a microphone and no one goes near them. It's almost like the audience is allowed
so strange
to ask some questions. You're like, hello, Christian, thank you for coming. What do you think?
He's on a stage in front of 20 people who are
between
at least
him. I've seen him
25
Cole,
feet behind him.
I've seen him, Cole, and Mac, and just each one of those guys. It's just like, oh my God, they are babies, and this is, you forget that these kids seem so young, and yet they've got to go into the NFL and deal with these giant, mean guys. I think Keon White looks ready to deal with it, but someone like Christian Gonzalez, who's 20 years old.
I was doing some stalking on social media, also trying to get acquainted with these players for my own pieces. I saw a tweet from the official Garner High School lacrosse account congratulating lacrosse alum Keon White for getting drafted, and I can't find anything else about him playing
on the
lacrosse
field in high school. I would have.
But that is the most hilarious. So I spent way too much time this morning looking at North Carolina high school sports
trying to find
records,
his
trying to find anything I can find about him playing lacrosse, because everything is just football and basketball. But if he played lacrosse, I can't wait for people to drive that narrative into the ground.
Well, it'd be like Jim Brown, right? They had to change the lacrosse rules because of Jim Brown. He just put the ball over his chest and just run through everybody. Right. It'd probably be something similar, but
I saw a story about him too. He was playing basketball once and popped his ankle out of place and just popped it right back in.
Oh yeah, it was a very bad injury for him.
I believe, yeah. 2 years that kind of
right.
affected him, right?
Yeah, and that was part of because Marco Coleman, who some of our listeners, Evan, I bet you did, Mike didn't. He had a long NFL career. He was the defensive line coach at Georgia Tech, and he's been there for 4 years. But unfortunately, he had left and came back, and he did not coach Keon last year, the year that he kind of broke out.
Right.
And so when I was talking to him, and I was talking to one of the people in sports information, and we had discussed that. It was like, like the year that Marco was with him, he had that freak. I think he slipped like on a T-shirt or something like that, and dislocated his ankle, and basically cost him the whole season. He played sparingly in about 4 games that year, and it wasn't until last year that he sort of reestablished the level that he left ODU with. So that was a significant injury for him, that ankle problem. And I think, Booty obviously has a significant – he's the only one of the 4 guys that I'm doing profiles that was at the same school all his whole career. The other 3 were at multiple schools.
Yeah, when I was talking to some people on Monday, the injury for Keon White did come up, and I didn't really know how bad it was, but seemed like before the injury, that explosiveness, that first step that I didn't really see on film was more present before the injury. So maybe as we put some distance between that even more, that comes back a little bit. But it's just really interesting to hear all their stories, and a lot of these guys, I think, are late breakout players. Like a guy like Demario Douglas is not even on anybody's radar until the Malik Willis year a couple years ago, even from high school, where he's getting basically FCS and Division II offers. He's not on nobody's radar despite setting records at his high school and receiving touchdowns. But even then, still, it's just not – it's too late. Once he's a senior in high school, all these recruiting classes are already filled out by that point for a lot of these major schools. So he might have gone to a Power 5 program had he been a junior breakout in high school, but because it didn't happen until fall, the senior year, they've already handed out all of their scholarships and all of their roster spots and things like that. So it's always interesting to hear about the late breakout guys.
Especially with COVID too. Like a lot of these guys had to deal with
It's such a factor
COVID.
still.
It's another thing that, like, again, except for Booty, the other 3 guys have been like 6 year
a
college
redshirt,
careers
right.
for what Alex is talking
sat
about.
out.
Yeah,
A lot of them transferred because of that. I mean, it's still an impact. And I mean,
the scouting side too, to try and scout players when that's
you still got the massive guys coming in. I mean, City Sal's like 25. I mean, he's going to be 25, I think, next month. So
he's a 6-year guy. Right?
Yeah, and I should say too, that was another interesting piece of my conversation with Coach Creighton there in Eastern Michigan, was that he said if I had 2 City Souths, they would have played left guard and left tackle, and we just felt he would be more effective for us overall with what we run being on the inside. So I know that was some speculation over the last couple of days. I mean, I don't want to put too much into it because I feel like some people see a report that City South could possibly play tackle, and all of a sudden they're like, well, that's it. It all makes sense now. He's going to be their new, like, I don't know. But he's a big, powerful dude. And the coach kept talking about just his kind of surprising athleticism for, somebody came from Canada, was a defensive lineman. He said, we watched him. They were, I think you guys probably know the story. They were on a bus of like 40 Canadian kids driving around to different showcases and camps trying to, show what they can do to college coaches. And the Eastern Michigan guys saw him and right away were like, he can play offensive line. They were actually there to see somebody else. And they liked City Sow enough, who was at the time a defensive lineman. They liked him enough as his projection that they offered him right there to be on the offensive line. And then, I think he paid dressed for 55 games, started like 53 games.
Crazy.
So, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you're right, he's old and he's probably maxed out, but at the same time, he's got a lot of experience. So hopefully that maybe helps accelerate his development process. And maybe he does end up. Because I don't see it as a monumental task to say if he can play tackle that he could be that third swing tackle this year, behind maybe, let's say we start off with, I don't know, at right tackle, the vet and Trent Brown, Riley Reif and Trent Brown, and then wait for, does somebody get hurt, does somebody break down, and then maybe at that point you make a move. But I think an opportunity is there if he could possibly make that switch.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that he played defense, because Mafi was a nose tackle for 2 years at UCLA before they moved him over. And I think one of the interesting things about him was he's like 400 pounds playing nose tackle. And then his coaches said that this year he really bought in to the program, into being, a pro pro, so to speak, and lost like 40 pounds from diet and exercise and all that type of stuff. So he was a big guy, played nose tackle, was a regular contributor at nose tackle, and then switches over to guard. And he just looks like Mike Onwenu. You know, he's built like Mike Onwenu, moves like Mike Onwenu. So he's someone that definitely projects inside. But Sal, he's got the athleticism for it. I mean, his arm length is right on the threshold. Like, he just checks the box barely. But his athleticism at the combine definitely tests out as an above-average tackle athlete. So we'll see. He hasn't played tackle since 18 or 19.
Like first year, I think.
Yeah, and his guard tape definitely showed somebody that his skill set is best suited at guard. It's pretty similar to Onwenu, right? Where, yeah, he could play tackle, but just the way that he plays in a phone booth just looks better to play him out at guard. I think if you give him more space and ask him to block on an island in pass protection, I don't know if he's necessarily going to hold up out there, but we'll see. I mean, this is what
they don't have a lot of young, promising depth there. I mean,
yeah.
I know Andrew Stuber. Anybody? I don't know if any of these guys are going to.
Does he exist? Is he a real person?
That's a name that I've forgotten about since last year's draft.
That's something Paul broke me of. I think is having high expectations for low output guy. Like, not that I ever had high, but you always just have in the back of your mind like, this guy, he didn't do anything last year.
I think it's kind of a simple thing, and there's always outliers. But I feel like when you have new guys that come onto the team, in general, if they turn out to be something significant, you see it right away. Now, there are definitely examples of guys that are on like IR the first year or practice squad and afterthought, and then year two, it's a big jump.
Yeah.
But like, to me, Ronnie Perkins, as an example.
That's a good one.
When he comes in as a rookie and you're not seeing him with regular players, I don't want to use the starters and backups because I know they don't like that. But when you don't see him getting a lot of reps, I don't think that they feel like he is potentially going to be a part of the mix. And conversely, sometimes you see some young guys that are from day one, wow, he's like rotating in with David Andrews at center. I mean, not just to use
Malcolm
a name.
Butler, wasn't he one that just was kind of getting some
constantly showing up in groups with the front line players, and you're like, they like this kid. You can tell they like him because they're letting him play with guys that are going to be playing. And again, there's never 100% one or the other, but
yeah, I remember
Andrew Stuber was injured coming in, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass. We'll see, but I'd be surprised if they thought a lot of Chasen Hines and Andrew Stuber based on drafting 3 more quote-unquote backup offensive linemen in day 3.
Especially in the fourth round. The fourth round is usually a lock to make the roster. Like,
they're most likely not going to get cut.
Yeah,
I agree.
Unless they're completely in over their heads in training camp. Now, could I see one of those guys getting Foxborough flued and you stash them on IR for a year? 110%. But in terms of protecting them, where they can't be poached by other teams, you don't just cut fourth-round picks most of the time as rookies. Those guys tend to stick, and I think Mafi, even though he's a 5th-rounder, I would put him in that category too, just based off of how much
I like his profile better than the other 2.
I like his film better than the other 2 too. I think he can really play, and at the Shrine Bowl, he was one of the better linemen there, and I remember talking to some people at the Shrine Bowl, and a lot of them were pretty lukewarm on the linemen that were there. These guys are probably going to be end of the draft, maybe priority free agents for the most part. But he was somebody that really stood out, especially his play strength and his ability to pull. Like, he's 330 pounds, but he can pull and he can block on the move a little bit better than you would expect. I think that comes from playing defense maybe and being a little bit lighter on his feet than you would expect. So I like him the best out of all of them as well.
All right, 855-PATS-500. You'd like to give us a call, send us an email, webradio@patriots.com. No Star Wars questions yet. I'm holding out hope for one of those. And we are going to lose Evan and Alex. So
nice job setting the table, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to do a better job reading the emails today because I don't want Audrey up my butt still about my. So I'm going to read them slowly.
I saw the Patriots Unfiltered, without context account tweet that yesterday, and I was like, what?
She's keeping me honest.
What happened after I left?
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And, hey, we can all take a little constructive criticism and, try to be better and all that. Right, but let's jump to the phones now. We got Todd in North Carolina. Hey, Todd.
Hey, guys. I said before draft that I was really hoping that they would address the current league model on how everything works. I think they made that an attempt. I think with their draft picks, they didn't get a receiver early. They tried to build up that defense. They did take a couple interesting receiver prospects late, but they built up team speed and stuff. And I remember calling in pre-draft and talking to you guys and saying, this is how I could judge whether, Bill still had his hat in the game. And I really think the draft shows that he does, that they made an effort.
All right.
And my other comment is Juju. I really like what he said. I really think that the offense needs to get some Juju. To be very honest, I think they're really kind of still out of sorts, and hopefully he's a part to bringing them back. And that's all I got, guys.
All right.
Have a
Thanks,
great
Todd.
show.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, I watched the Juju film. I did like him. He came. I don't know what I expected. Like you hear about these guys. This is Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, I don't know what he's like off the field, but you just know him as a player. And then, you get to see him talk. He came off likable, came off soft-spoken. I thought he said most of the right things. We'll see how it all translates onto the field.
Yeah, I think that I was listening to some national podcasts and things.
Paul's
not
no,
not Paul.
national
No.
podcast.
No,
That's not.
no,
That's
no,
because
no,
I like to
That's
get
not my
That's
bag,
not-
baby.
no, okay.
I like to get what people's opinions are of the Patriots that aren't here, right? That aren't glued in, that aren't as negative as Paul's shows, but also aren't as inside it like we are.
Yeah,
They're so close to
the 30,000 viewers.
right. So I was
30,000
listening to Robert Mays and those guys on the Athletic, who I think do a great job, and a lot of them were gushing about the talent on the Patriots defense, and I thought that I was just being kind of a homer when I looked at the depth chart and was like, this is kind of a pretty impressive defense. But I really feel like on that side of the football now, I think the biggest thing is probably Devin McCourty and how they replace the communication and the experience and that element on the back end. But if you just look at talent, their defense on paper is one of the better defenses in the league.
If Gonzalez pans out to be what we think he's going to be, big if, because what do we know? But if he does, then that significantly improves, I think, the talent level in the secondary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just knock
I don't think they
everybody
have
down. You just knock everybody down a peg.
But
right?
they don't have a guy with that profile.
Right.
And so if he's really good, I think that's a really valuable piece to have back there.
Yeah, I would still hold up pass rush depth, like a post Judon injury. Like I don't know if they're set to accommodate that, and I could go either way on Keon White. Like I see, everything that we've talked about with him. Like there's and I love defensive guys. Like I love a guy that in theory could be moved all around the defensive line and just be a big mean wrecking ball. But I think to like what we've just been saying, I don't see that like with Uche, for example. Like I knew Uche was a limited guy when we drafted him. He didn't really play early downs there. He was there what he was here. But when I talked to his coach, when I talked to Don Brown about him, he was like, look, this guy can run the arc like nobody else, and he's going to bring that skill into the NFL immediately and challenge the outside shoulder of offensive tackles. And, Keon White, I'm just searching for, like, what is that one thing he does great? Like, he seems powerful, but it never seems, in what I've seen of him, to really blow the play up before it develops. It's almost like the Nelson Aguilar thing where it's like, all right, it always happens like way late in the down, and like that's not what we need. We need consistent early down disruption. Not like, all right, well, Nelson Aguilar caught all these passes when the pocket breaks and somebody launches it. And he's
I heard someone talking about White in exactly that manner earlier this week, and that was my first thought. It was like, he gets a lot of pressure, but it's like right as the passes are, so he doesn't have a lot of sacks. And I'm like, well, then like
not
to what end then? Now I would say it sounds to me like he might be one of those guys that we see his impact more on third downs, passing downs when he's on the inside. I think he might be able to be
three technique.
A guy that can collapse the pocket from the inside. Maybe not racking up big numbers, but maybe his power is going to be able to take advantage of those interior guys.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that thought that his best NFL role would be a three technique on the inside, rushing over the guard instead of outside, but I think they see him as a 5, like a straight up over the tackle type of guy.
Yeah, I definitely think that.
And I don't necessarily think that he's going to be flashy or super productive, but I think with everything that I've gathered about him, that he's going to just be solid. Like he's just going to be a solid rotational guy that maybe down the road becomes a starter, but for now he's going to be able to play in an NFL football game right away. And I guess there's something to be said for that, especially in the second round. I think they've taken some chances in the second round on the upside. Guys like a Tyquan Thornton, like a Jawan Williams, even that have these physical traits with this upside, but didn't necessarily have the floor of a player like Keon White. So I'm trying to talk myself into it too, because it's not out of all their picks. The day 3 guys at that point of the draft, you do what you do on day 3, right? You fill your holes and you fill your schematic fits and your culture guys and like whatever. But on the top 100, I feel like that's more where you can kind of look at and see what they really did. And he's the one guy out of the 3 in the top 100 that I got to see it in training camp and early on in the season for me to be a big time believer, but I do think that he'll be able to play a role on defense in some capacity.
Yeah. He could be ready to replace Dietrich Wise too. I mean, he's not getting any younger. He's Alex's age.
Right, I know. The 6-year breakout.
And he just had a baby though, so maybe he has dad strength now.
Oh, that's what I have.
strength
Do we
is
have
big.
love?
I love Dietrich Wise. I lost all my strength when I had children.
Oh, you lose dad strength when you
That's
become
not
a
supposed
dad?
to happen.
Yes.
What is dad strength? Yeah, but there's also part of me with White that's just like holding out hope that like he's gonna get here and the injury's gonna finally be behind him and it's all gonna kind of click for him. And I want to feel like I felt with Barmore in 2021's camp, where it's like every one-on-one you saw the guy go. It's a handful,
Right.
I just want to see him be a handful early on in training camp. It's so hard to judge those guys, especially early on in camp when they're not even in pads yet, and then even when they get in pads, you get a handful of one-on-ones from across the field that you're trying to figure out. So I'm still holding out hope. I'm not saying
it's
I'm
easy
out
to
on him.
Sell us on most of these guys, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm
after
not hard sell at all.
I can talk myself into everybody. Like I have Marty Mapu.
See, I'm trying to do that with Mapu.
Mapu is just Matt Milano to me in my head already, right? Like I've already totally sold myself on that one.
Evan put that in my head on Saturday, and I've been trying to get there.
Get me.
But
I don't think I'm gonna
Keon
get
White,
there.
I got to see it on the field in the summer, like
Yeah.
with pads on. Like, let's obviously put that
right.
caveat. So we're a long way away from that. So we'll see.
We're gonna like a couple weeks. We're gonna be mini camp. We're like, I mean, he looks big.
Yeah.
like what?
But it's like
no pads on.
You know, Sam Roberts looks big.
I know.
Right? Like Sam Roberts looks like an NFL player walking off the bus, but he adds a occasional flash in camp as a rookie. But we really need to see it from Keon White. He's
like
a second round pick.
Yeah, he's like the 7th round version of Keon White, and I thought of him
Right.
too when they selected him. He was one of the guys that I talked to. I mean, he's a D2 player, I think.
Yeah.
But same kind of thing. Like one of those big, powerful guys that don't really have an exact position maybe for some NFL teams, but here they're useful because they can move around. All right, let's jump back to the phones, and let's see how he's doing. Willem and Philem. Hey, Willem, how are you doing, man?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Not as good as yesterday, but I'm okay.
All
I'm
right.
ready today, though.
All right, that's good.
Well, how everybody doing on the panel? Everybody good?
Yeah,
We're good.
I think so.
Okay. All right. I'm a school. Alex from this one, but this is for the fellas. Okay.
Got it.
So is this it? Is this all we going with as far as the on the offensive side? Like, so you're just because basically all they did in terms of on the receiving part is you just swapped out players. That's all you did. You didn't really add anything. What, 2 lottery picks or 6 round picks that you might? I guess you were hoping they pinned out. So is that all we going? Is that all that's going to be added to help Mac Jones?
Yes.
You didn't get a tackle action either.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there's always a chance that you could make a trade, but yeah, I would say that what you see is what you get offensively.
They like their tackles better than everybody else.
Yep.
Whether we agree with that or not, listen, William, I'll be the first one to tell you I got some humble pie on Tuesday from Paul over there about being knowing more than Bill Belichick.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll tell you, they might know more than us about the tackles. All right, so we got to give them a chance to play the tackles. I hear you on the receivers, I really do, but I think the one interesting thing that when I had some conversations the other day that someone said to me is that Bill Walsh was a big believer that number one receiver, he was the final piece to the puzzle, right? It wasn't, you didn't just throw the number one receiver, the Jerry Rice to his, for Bill Walsh's, mind. You don't just throw that guy in when you're still rebuilding the rest of the roster. When the Bills were ready to take that next step, that's when they made that Stephon Diggs trade. When the Eagles are ready to take that next step, that's when they made the A.J. Brown trade. And as much as I want the Patriots to make that trade too, I do wonder if they felt like they were still a year away from that guy really doing the service that we all want him to do of moving that needle from, one direction to another. So I totally hear you on the receivers. I think we're all in the same boat on that, but maybe that move comes next offseason as much as we want to see it right away.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Evan. But I have another take after this one, though. Okay, so all right, so Tom Brady's been gone since what 2019, correct?
Yep.
So we already in
2020.
We're in 2023 now. So how long does it take to build? Because already Bill messed up one season already, for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
how long does it take to build a team to get them to be back in competitive mode or championship mode or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends on who you ask.
How long do you need? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I mean, I think that the answer for that is different. You know, like, does it work? And does the quarterback work? And I mean, I've seen teams turn it around in 1 year. I've seen teams spin their wheels for a decade.
Right.
Like, I mean, let's hope that the Patriots aren't in that situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
What I mean,
Right, but
go ahead.
how long is it? Okay, so you're saying you see other teams do that. Okay, so with
Well,
the coach that we
like the
have,
Jets, for example, you know, the last time they made the playoffs was what?
Rex
2010?
Ryan.
Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so,
Right.
you know, then you look at some other teams that, you know, they were good, you know, like Kansas City, you know, they were good. They were a playoff team with Alex Smith. They sort of recalibrated and immediately jumped to another level with Patrick Mahomes. Like, there's no blueprint answer. Well, it takes 3 years to rebuild properly. No,
Right.
like, it depends on how you hit on your picks and your players. And I'm sorry to break it down to just one thing, but your quarterback.
Yeah.
It like that matters.
Well,
Absolutely.
I would break it down a different way though. I would say, how long does the ownership and fan base have patience for
And
that?
I was getting to that.
And just real quick before I let you make your point, William, I went back and I just looked at all the 3 other AFC East teams over the last 20 years, and what was it like for them? What was the average that they were willing to go with a coach quarterback kind of combination? And usually it was 3 or 4 years. Like if you made the playoffs or had a pretty good season, you might get that 4th year, but usually it's 3 years, at least as far as
But
those
here's
teams
the
were
problem
concerned.
for that. You can't really compare the Patriots situation to anybody else because no one else has a coach that's been doing it for 23 years, not 25,
Right.
like he's telling you.
Yeah, it's tough to fire.
And win
be
and
the
won
guy to
6.
fire Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and won
Right.
6 titles. So he's
That counts for something, but I think
He
that's what
should
we're
get
getting
more
at.
time.
Right. But what is it? And I think
But how
we've got some
much? I don't
questions
know.
here on the email too of what is reasonable. I don't think anybody was ready to fire Bill in 20. I mean, certainly some people were.
Shoot, I was.
But it's just what's reasonable.
Willem and
Like,
Eldred.
as soon as Brady left, they were like, "He's out."
I left you out that time.
Nothing at this point. ASAP. I don't care what you did back then. What you doing now?
Yeah,
And
I
what
hear
you
you.
did right
I hear
now-
you. That's a fair way of looking at it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, William. Appreciate it.
I want to know why he was so happy yesterday. What was so good that happened yesterday? It's
don't
like
know.
not as good as yesterday, he said.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it wasn't even a show day. How
hope
good
not.
could it have been?
I got some emails too. Somebody.
Some strays for me again.
Well, no. Maybe I should
Shrapnel.
read this one right now, just real quick, because Andy wrote in about Willem, and we have a little listener on listener debate here.
I like listener on listener
my.
crime.
So Andy in Cleveland wrote in. Hopefully Willem tuned back in. He said, "What in the world is going on with Willem?" And he calls him Willem and Philem. Willem and Philem's audio. Guy sounds like he's calling from inside of a water tower on
Yeah.
speaker from
He's
a
down.
distance.
William is down.
He's
I
always
think that's why he
quiet.
sounds like that.
Wellness
Yeah.
check on Willem.
He said, "I appreciate the people who can be regular callers and contribute to the show, but can we take up a collection to get him some decent headphones with a mic?" So,
Headphones with a mic. He's calling in.
Yeah. How much? What do you want us to get him a
Get him like a
setup?
little blue Yeti mic.
Yeah.
Hey,
right?
Marine Corps,
50
get on
bucks.
that, will you? I want all of our
We'll
regular callers
We'll have a fundraise to
set
get
up with a real
$50
microphone.
Go send
blue
him.
Yeti mic
Go send
for
him one
William.
of those briefcases that you give me when I go on the road, or Houston I
Oh,
go.
that's
and we
way
gotta
too
do-
big, and
yeah,
you're like, I
it's-
gotta check this
Yeah,
thing?
it's heavy, and I'm weak.
Yeah,
so
I know
it's just the
Evan
whole
and
thing.
Alex have to go. If not,
Yes.
so make sure
yeah.
you guys.
Oh,
I don't want to hold
does that
them
mean
up.
we're riding with the PP and the deuce again?
PP and the deuce.
PP and the deuce.
I
But
think, I think we can have better nicknames than that.
No,
Guys.
PP and the deuce.
I don't
that
think you
works.
can,
I mean,
actually.
all of the focus groups love it, Evan. I mean, it's no catch 22.
Which
but
coming up
it's-
at 2:00. Stay tuned.
Yes, absolutely.
Pro tees.
So why don't we reset, take
Yeah.
a little bit of a break, and let them.
So I'm just gonna grab one call here before we break because Dominique's been holding on for a moment, and I just want to grab them. Hey, Dominique, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? Hopefully my mic is good. You
Yeah,
guys can hear me?
perfect. You,
So,
Matt already sent
Sounds
you
like a
one.
professional.
Dream call.
Yeah, well, come on now. But yeah, so just thoughts on everything with the drafting going on, and more of a discussion for y'all is I'm looking back at the 2023 draft, and I'm thinking, I know there's been a lot of talk about folks wanting, a wide receiver on that end, but thinking about even with Christian Gonzalez, there was a whole worry about Jonathan Jones. If he leaves, who the heck is going to be our number one corner and where will we fill that position?
Yeah.
That was my worry.
Yep.
And even the same with Devin McCourty. So with the first 3 takes, I've been very happy with that, addressing with a lot of needs or potential needs that we'll have in the next couple of years or so. And even going back to the wide receiver thing, it's kind of like, I know folks are mad and upset, but I look at it like this. We had that weird year with Brady, after Brady with Cam. Okay, didn't do too well. We had a rookie, Mac Jones, went to the playoffs, and we had a good offensive coordinator, right? Following year, want to do a whole whatever with the offensive shifting between, Patricia, Judge, what have you, bad. I kind of want to see before we dive into, the concerns of offense, even though there are legit concerns in the offense, stability with Bill O'Brien. You have another player in Juju Smith-Schuster that I think is talented and can produce at a decent level given the chance, schemes well. And we still have Tyquan Thornton, who we don't really know what he can do, but he still, I believe, in my opinion, has a high ceiling. So with that being said, I'm okay with the fact that we haven't gone so high for a receiver, especially for getting someone like Kayshon Boutte, who, if he pans out, could be excellent. Or, DeMario Douglas, who, that coaching staff knows better than, probably any of us do in terms of his speed, his athletic profile and whatnot. So I'm wondering if you're feeling the same way. I'm more concerned about the stability. I want to see what Matt can do with what he has. If you believe another receiver is the thing that makes him jump to that elite, top 15, whatever, 10 quarterback level, sure. But that's at least how I'm feeling. That's kind of what I want to gauge first, and that's going through training camp, obviously early parts of the season, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think you make a
Awesome.
pretty good point, because I think if you look at us this time last year, we're looking at this receiving core on paper. It looks a lot the same as this year. You don't have Nelson Aguilar, but our narratives last year was we were way more worried about the defense on this show.
Yeah, I was.
And this was before all the coordinator drama. Okay, and we know Paul. Okay.
Yeah.
Paul's always right.
Me and Fred were.
No.
Me and Fred
Paul's
were,
not a
"It'll be
believer in a specific
fine."
position, so I always have my
Fair
concerns
enough.
about offense.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But it was just a totally different conversation we were having before training camp.
Yes.
And then the coordinator stuff played out. It was so dysfunctional. And it's like, oh my God, how could we even have had these opinions?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'm more worried, honestly, at
Dominique.
this point. I hear all the look. I'm not the one to say I don't believe in receivers all of a sudden, right? I hear all of that, but I'm more worried about the tackles, to be honest with you, because
Me too.
I look at Mac Jones and I know even last year when it was as dysfunctional and horrible as it was on offense, from clean pockets, he graded out extremely well. High passer ratings, high PFF grades if you're into that. It's always with him. It's always under pressure. He's not a mobile guy. He's not an elusive guy, and he doesn't throw the ball well while under pressure. So if you can keep him clean, he can make all the throws and he can run your offense and do all those types of things. But if you can't, and I think they're banking on a lot of coaching, like Adrian Clem and the just sophistication of the entire system up front being cleaner, because the talent I'm not necessarily sure is significantly better on the line.
Right. Yeah, my biggest fear, the reason I agree with the tackle is, do I think they could use an upgrade of talent in the pass catchers? I absolutely do, but I think in this particular draft class, it wasn't really conducive to devoting, a lot of resources to it. Now, I think they could have gone earlier, and you guys talked about this a lot on Saturday. There were guys that were worth developing, your Charlie Joneses and Josh Downses of the world that they passed on. Okay, fine. I don't think any of those guys was going to step in, in 2023 and
be a number one
significant, addition. I think what they have as pass catchers is good enough. And I'm kind of echoing Dominique's feel okay, so let's see how it looks with a real offensive coordinator, and Evan brings up a good point, a real offensive line coach.
Yeah.
To see if you can
that was just
look more like you did as a rookie.
Before you guys go, that was just the one point I was going to bring up, because I remember you talking to the offensive linemen and them saying that they didn't have the ability to make the same calls that they did. So I wonder if maybe some part of that struggle with Mac was baked into just not having the answers all the time that he needed to have. Maybe there's
that's
something
his
to
strength
say.
as a player, is to be able to get to the line of scrimmage, survey what the defense is showing you pre-snap, and get everybody pointed in the right direction, make some checks, make some changes to the protection. Those are the things that's what drew them to him to an extent, was between the ears, what he was capable of doing at the line of scrimmage as a field general. And last year they just kind of stripped all of that away from him. So if they can get back to playing to his strengths, not only as a passer, but also just the cerebralness of his ability to read the field, I think that they're going to be better up front. But I do worry still about the one-on-one match. At the end of the day, it's still my guy against your guy to an extent in football, always. So at the end of the day, is Riley Reif going to hold up at right tackle when they got Von Miller coming off one side and Greg Rousseau coming off the other side against Buffalo or whatever the matchup is? Are they going to be able to hold up against Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips when they play Miami? I don't know. Those are the big concerns that I have.
All right, Evan and Alex are going to take off. Go hear from Mike Kosicki and Mike Vrabel. A lot of Mics today, and you got one here hosting, and Mike DeSalt. So me and Paul are going to take a little bit of a break. Nobody's food's here. We're not even eating today, folks. We're just going to sit it out for a little bit. So we'll be back in a minute.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible.
No way. As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Want to get into the game? Get coached up at Dean College. Equipped with exclusive academic partnerships featuring the Patriots, Revolution, Providence Bruins, summer baseball, and more, our classrooms are set up for success by learning directly from the pros. Dean College has programs in communications, sports management, business, and marketing with unprecedented hands-on experiences. Our students take what they learn in the classroom and put it right to work in the marketplace. At Dean College, our students don't just play games, we run them. Visit us at dean.edu.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
And now, great moments in history.
You know what I don't like about these sports shows now? The standing up on the set and, awkwardly not knowing what to do with your hands and stuff. Why do they all do this now? They all, just stand up.
You mean like Patriots Unfiltered?
No, you guys sit in the couch.
Yeah. We stand for the rest of it, though.
I do.
That's news nowadays. The regular local news,
Yeah,
they have
they
to stand up. It's
I
terrible.
like Wendy.
Yeah.
Who?
Wendy Nix?
Yeah.
That's Susie
Susie Colbert.
Well, I like her. All right. Sorry.
She's
messed
been
up her
around
name.
since dirt. She's old.
I like Susie.
Yeah.
That's not very
That's
nice.
not nice.
She's
I
on
will
Monday
take
Night
Kansas
Football.
City, and I will take the points with Oakland. 9.5.
She's Monday Night Football, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like her.
Yeah. She's been around a long time. I'm
Fred,
gonna.
Why do you have to re-emphasize it?
How many times are you going to say how
Yeah.
old she is?
She's old.
That's another great moment from
All right, we're back at it, and that was the voice of Megan O'Brien.
The
great Megan O'Brien.
MOB.
I'm going to share a little bit of news. I hope it's okay about MOB, but she's going to be throwing out the first pitch at a Chicago White Sox game.
There you go. For
this
reals.
month. And I got to say too, we got Matisse.
I think it's in July.
Out in July. So I think everybody probably knows what a huge fan of the White Sox she was. Maglio Ordonez. I told her, I'm like, you got to wear a Maglio jersey. So she's very excited, and I hope she throws a strike, though. I mean, that's she's pretty athletic. I think she'll throw right down the middle,
Oh,
right?
my favorite.
Did you happen to see the woman who plays college baseball for Brown?
Yeah,
It's the
she
first
launched
woman,
one.
right? First woman to play Division I college baseball, and she threw out the first pitch of the Red Sox game, and she threw it as hard as she could, which I was kind of expecting, but it was way off.
Yeah, it was.
Wasn't as bad as 50 cents though.
Oh no, oh no! But she's an actual baseball player. I would have.
Gotta get over.
I was expecting more.
She was excited. Well, you should have given her some tips for throwing out pitches at Fenway, right? You've done that, right?
I've thrown actual pitches, not ceremonial ones.
They're not ceremonial.
They didn't have to choose me out of a lottery to do it.
Yeah, how many home runs you hit in Fenway?
None.
Oh,
no.
That wasn't where long. Oh no, long ball Paul happened down in Connecticut.
That was in New Britain.
New Britain. I like that. Let's jump over to the phone though, real quick, because Brian from Western Mass has been holding on through our break. So, hey, Brian, thanks for holding on. What's going on?
Hey guys, hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
So the one thing I'm finding an issue with is that people are complaining about not drafting a wide receiver early in the draft. I think personally there was no superstar wide receiver jumping out at us. Second of all, I don't find this team needs another rookie that's just going to learn the offense.
Yeah.
And, if anything, this offense needs a veteran-proven wide receiver. obviously, like Hopkins and probably Judy are not able to be tradable, but that's the kind of receiver that the team needs. It's not Josh Booty or Booty. I forget his first name. I'm sorry.
Keyshawn.
It's a great late
Keyshawn
pick, but
Booty.
honestly, I just don't see needing a draft pick early in this draft for wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the call. And I mean, it's something we kind of talked about when we got into day 2, which was just, was there that guy? I mean, if they gotten Zay Flowers,
it's
or
all about
JSN,
that. Like, to me, if
name on the claim,
if it was a regular draft class, I think this wide receiver class had a bunch of secondary guys at the top of it. Now, I think there were a lot of good receivers. I don't think there were any great ones. And if there was, the way it's been like in recent years, I would have been much more open to using wide receiver at 14. Now, I don't think that I don't think Smith and Jigba or Zay Flowers was worthy of that. Some people do, and that's fine because they haven't played it down yet. We'll see who ends up being right, but I don't kill them for that.
No, and Tease, you love Gonzalez as much as everybody,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like, I mean, I look at it the same way. It's just the opposite side of the ball. Like you say, they're missing that number 1 threat on the offense. Well, I'd say they're missing that number 1 cover guy on the defense, and that's what you had the opportunity to get now. And to our previous caller who said it's, that last piece that you put in. I mean, I don't know about that. I'm hoping one of these 2 guys emerge, like one of these 2 6-rounders comes out and, maybe just chips in with it. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be like Jacoby Myers, but it's hard to wish because you love Gonzalez, right?
We're due for a late round guy to blow up. I don't think that's happened here for a while, but I mean, last year, I think hindsight's 2020, but you had to pick last year. You could have got one of those guys. I don't think any of the receivers this year were that much better.
No, and I mean, when did Justin Jefferson go? Like 20, and whatever it was, 2019, 2020. So I mean, that's the drafts you're talking about, Paul, where it's
in
Olave
recent years,
and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
And there's 5 of them that you're like, I'd be pretty happy with any of them.
I would have taken one of those guys at 14 if they were available, from last year. Now, I just don't think it was the same caliber of class.
I think that's the draft reality too, punching you in the face is like, I mean, every single person, except for Paul, credit where credit is due, had Josh Downs as the number 1 guy on the second tier. So once those receivers went in the first round.
Yeah, and I didn't hate him or anything. I just wasn't as high on him as you guys.
But you weren't looking at him as like.
Yeah, you did like Marvin Mims. I remember that from the podcast.
Yeah. So there were those guys, kicking around. But, at the same time, when you break it down, what intrigued me about Downs was what would kind of intrigue me if Booty or Douglas were to hit. Though that's the kind of player I wanted. So doing it with a 6-round pick and there's not really the pressure, I like how they balance those 2 picks.
What's interesting to me is that the guys who went late in the first round, Quentin Johnson, Addison, that might be scary because you got Justin Jefferson, and then you got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen in L.A. Like, that gives them some veterans to work under, and that's just going to free them up, so they might have big seasons.
It's nice to have that luxury.
Yeah, I just don't think you got that here. Like,
no, you don't. And I do think that's a good point because you attach a little like context and nuance to it. I think a lot of people immediately look, and I'm not telling you that it's an easy thing to do or that it's correct, but a lot of people look and they say, well, Justin Jefferson. You could have had Justin Jefferson. If you moved up, you could have gotten Jefferson. Yeah, they could have. And I think he's a great player. I think he'd be great anywhere. But maybe he wouldn't be great here. Yeah. That's one I don't agree with, obviously, because I think Justin Jefferson is at worst, one of the 3 best receivers in football. I think guys like that are great anywhere they go.
Yeah.
But sometimes, so Quentin Johnston. Maybe he works because of what you said, Tease.
Yep.
Maybe with Herbert, Leighton Downs, you like to talk about with Aguilar, and 2 other receivers that are pretty good. He's not going to be asked to go in there and catch 90 balls.
Yep.
He could have a really good rookie year and catch like 40.
Right. And
but maybe with the Patriots, he wouldn't be afforded that same kind of luxury.
Yep.
And to that point, I wonder what's going to be available, if one of those 6-round guys do get a chance, because I do think that their skill sets are a little bit unique. And, maybe with Thornton's speed, with Parker going down the field as a contested catch kind of guy, like, maybe that helps open up opportunities for some of these guys underneath. We have to see. There's so many, like, what if Bill O'Brien works out? What if Tyquan Thornton makes a leap? What if Riley Reif has, can squeeze another solid year, out of how many years he's been playing? It's all those what ifs we're playing. And it's hard to say they're going to thread the needle.
Yeah. Generally, the more ifs you have, the worse the record will be.
The
but,
more are going to go wrong.
You know, like a lot of people talk about that with the Red Sox. The Red Sox have won 5 in a row. Who knows?
Hey, who knows? Eldred calling in. Let's see what he's got to say. Hey, Eldred, how are you? There it is.
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing, lady?
Good. No lady yet. No lady right now, but maybe soon.
Well, I thought you were earlier. I saw
She
her
was.
earlier,
See,
but I was wrong.
Evan and Alex had to go and do work.
Talk to Mike Gesicki about football.
And
the gritty. Okay.
Well, we get to
okay,
stay and do this.
I'm going to get to it. Then
Yeah.
we'll get to it. Paul, I
Yes.
love that fight with you and Fred Tuesday, and I agree with you 100%.
I don't remember
It
having a
was
fight.
Cole Strange.
Oh,
was he a
Cole
bust? Yeah, that.
Yeah, it's a bust.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be one regular season throughout, too. You know, but I also agree with you with that. But the other caller, you had a chance to get Avile and last year, but he didn't get him. So you had one. You know,
Yep.
that guy from Oregon State.
And
He was right there.
I'm not going to lie. I worry a little bit about that with the tight ends this year. Because it seems to me the better a class is in terms of talent, the more apt the Patriots are to sit that draft out and wait for the next one.
They've been doing it with wide receivers for like 5 years.
Like a year off.
Yeah, but they're picking the wrong one for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
That's the problem. He's picking the wrong one, and Princeton Johnson going to be a monster. Just wait and see. But one more thing about the defense. Everything else, Paul, I agree with you about White. I don't really like him that much, but you like him, but I don't.
Oh, okay.
You know.
I was like, you're agreeing with me on things that I don't necessarily agree with. Because my argument
You
with
say
Cole
he's a good
Strange wasn't
player.
that he's a bust. It's that it's harder to tell if an offensive lineman is a bust because if they play, everybody automatically thinks it's fine. Whereas the other positions where you can get statistics, you can readily see.
Yeah.
You can regularly see, right. But I think they should have got some upside, Keon White, you know. And but that defense, the secondary, I like what he picked in the last 2 rounds, or last 6 rounds, but 6 rounds, the last 2. I just hope they can contribute besides special teams.
Yeah,
you know?
I wouldn't count on
And
that.
That's, you have speed on you wouldn't count on it.
I wouldn't. I mean, you don't take
Well, they
guys
could've coached him
down,
up.
in the 200s that you're expecting to contribute. Like, I mean, again, I'd never say never. Like, there's always outliers, but
Those guys are special teamers in college, and
right. I mean, they can run.
But Speed plays for Michigan State. He started on the left side.
Yeah. Speed played his first 4 years at Georgia and really couldn't get on the field.
Okay.
And then he went to Michigan State for his last year, right? I'm not. That's the one that I'm thinking of,
Yep,
right?
you're
He
right.
went to Michigan State his last
Yeah,
year,
yeah.
and he was okay.
Yeah.
He's okay. Yeah, I saw some clips. He was okay. But I think it was
Big
the
difference, Big
technique
Ten
and
passing
training.
games and SEC passing games.
Yeah, it might be. Well, y'all have a good one.
All right, Eldred. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you. All your calls. Thank you. Quick email that just popped up that made me laugh. Sam from Maryland.
Sammy.
Weighing in. Love the show and the draft coverage. I compiled a few of the best quotes of the draft.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, these are good. Mike, this is one of mine. Something about kids in suits just bothers me. It's true. Then Matisse was like, it's a Make-A-Wish kid. Oh, damn it. Fred, wait, who did they take? Who was picked? What player is going? Yeah, that was, classic Fred playing the hits.
You could fill in the blank for
Yeah.
any situation of the first round. Yep.
Paul, they're going to trade their 3rd round pick for 7 fourths and have all of the 4th round. Fred, we don't want to bore people. Paul, too late. Those are a few highlights from our draft. Paul, why don't you tell the audience how the draft show performed?
Oh,
we
so
got
Tease, you'd be able to talk about this a little bit too. We got some numbers from our the illustrious Chris Ferreira.
Numbers.
And the NFL compiles some numbers off of draft weekend videos. So there are different things, but the most watched draft show was the Cowboys. Not surprisingly,
Oh, right,
they own the NFL, and we were second behind Dallas. Now the gap between Dallas and the Patriots is about 150,000. So it was significant. They had over 200,000. Like that was.
Well, we also heard that there might have been some
now,
shenanigans
yeah.
going
Now
on. They might
we're
have
also
been-
calling into question,
Yeah,
which I like our social media team.
They might have been on video the whole
Neil
draft.
came to our defense. Evidently, Dallas was on for 5 hours
Yeah,
video, and
interesting.
we're told that we can only be on for an hour.
Well, they got to get their guy, and everyone wants to see it.
So if we were on for 5 hours of that, maybe we continue to rack up the clicks
right
in the beginning of videos and whatnot. But we want to
But,
thank.
yeah, thank
the
the
bottom line is Mike gives us an opportunity
Yeah.
to thank you guys for making sure that we finished so high in that ranking because that means a lot to us. It's because there was so many people that were interested in not only the Patriots draft, but in what we had to say about it. So thank you to everybody. See, I don't always criticize the fans.
No, especially, well, look, there's a difference between like the general, Patriots fan that is like, just refuses to believe that they haven't won the Super Bowl every year for the last 20 years. And then, our fans who listen to us and they know we get both sides of things and we have fun with it. So we of course appreciate
Try
everybody.
to capture the spirit of it.
That's what it's all about. Sticking with the emails here, and I hope I'm doing a good job on these because
you're doing a great job today, Mike.
I don't know. I'm gonna wait for Audrey to thank you though, but I'll wait for her to weigh in. Mike, I found out after Tuesday's show you were born in Rochester, New York. Yes, it's true. I'm surprised because I've never heard anyone admit to being born there. I was wondering how long you stayed there and what your favorite attraction. I explained it. I mean, my parents were there for a few years. While my dad was working at Wilson Sporting Goods. Yes, supplying a lot of.
Fred turned it into a tawdry sort of event.
Of course he did. But then I moved here to wonderful Holliston, Massachusetts. I think I was about 1 year old. So grew up around here. So I have no memory of Rochester or anything like that. But it's one of those random things where I have nothing to do with that. But that is where where's your place of birth? That's what I got to put down.
But you're an asshole at heart.
I mean, Mike, at least you have stories to tell. I mean, you could be like me and born in Boston, grew up in Everett, went to college in Boston, worked in Boston.
High school with Gray.
For the Patriots.
with Meredith Gray, high school.
Oh, don't get.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, I should say too.
Have I ever said that on the air? No.
But we should take.
It was that when Pompeo.
Yeah,
then
when
I know.
Pompeo.
I know she fancies herself Pompeo now. Yeah, we went to high school together. She was a year behind me.
I mean, if I'm allowing Star Wars questions today, which we've gotten none of yet, Matisse is way in on Grey's Anatomy right now. So our Grey's fans out there, if you've got some Meredith Grey or McSteamy questions,
it's amazing to me that of all people, Tease is so into
I don't
the
get it.
show.
And he keeps complaining.
I can't stop.
I can't stop watching Grey's Anatomy.
Can't stop, won't stop.
It died down once the draft came through because I like my late round picks over the heart surgeries. So
nice.
That's good. Mark from Tennessee. Love the show. Really feel the Patriots should have drafted offensive tackle in the draft. I'm worried about the longevity of the tackles we have on the roster. Also, I'm concerned about Mac's arm strength. He's not able to put the ball downfield with much power. He puts a huge arc on the throws down the field, giving defenders more time to get in position to make the play on the ball.
It's called a touch pass.
Yeah, I think he throws a good deep ball in that regard, but I would agree with the criticism of it. It does take a while to get there, and I think that we've seen examples of plays that were there to be made that maybe the timing wasn't quite on, but
he's got to be on with the offense. And I think that's what exposed him a little bit last year was just that the offense wasn't coordinated in a way that he could go through progressions and take advantage of what he does well. And I think if he can't know this is the throw I've got to make at this exact moment to get it there at the right time. And, it's kind of like what we saw with Cam Newton when he was late to see something and he tried to put more juice in it, and it just, you can't catch up once you miss the window. So I'm hoping it's not as much of an issue, but I think, as Paul will tell you, when we're watching games up in the press box and Mac lobs one, and
part of that is
come on, get there.
Part of that
is
the depth perception that we deal. No, seriously, because I mean that I thought that on a lot of different throws that I've seen over the years, not just Mac, but I think back to the playoff game in Buffalo. I mean, I know a lot of people just, everybody just says, well, they allowed touchdowns on 7 drives. Yeah, they did. They also had a chance to score when they had the ball and didn't, the first, 5 times they had it. And the first drive of that game was actually probably their best drive of the whole night. And they moved the ball down into scoring territory, and they dialed up a play that was there, and the receiver was open, and the deep ball that Mac threw took a little too long to get there and was thrown in the wrong side. It was a little short, and it got picked off. Remember?
Yeah, unfortunately.
By one of the safeties, because they're the same to me, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde.
It was Hyde.
It was one of them, and evidently it was the greatest play in the history of safety play, because everybody has completely absolved the quarterback of any responsibility for that play.
Right. Well, Evan put some on Aguilar for not going up for it.
I think
for not doing much to break it up, but the fact that it wasn't a touchdown is 100% on the quarterback.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue is that you watch Mac play. I think Mac's fine. Could be worse, could be better. But
sure, that's exactly how I feel about
it. It's fine. He gets the job done. But then you get to the Monday night game, the Sunday night game, and you're watching Mahomes, Josh Allen, and that is a different level arm strength, and there's just so much more speed on the ball. So,
and I knew Evan was leaving when him and Alex had to go and do the interviews. But and that was part of what I would clap back with. And his numbers were actually pretty good when he was protected.
Yeah.
I just like to see the quarterback whose numbers are bad when protected. I don't think there are any.
Yeah.
You know, I think that most guys, if they're given the time and they're in the NFL, they're going to find ways to complete passes.
Yeah.
I think the ones that separate themselves are the ones that can do it quickly and the ones that can do it off platform.
I think, too, that the interesting thing for me that I always hate bringing up Brady with these kind of things, but just when a game is going one way, and, you know, I think the big thing with the Mac offense of the last couple of years is just they struggle to flip the switch in a game. And if it starts off bad, it kind of stays bad. You know, I mean, I think last year with Minnesota, you got maybe a little bit of them, like it wasn't great, but then they kind of picked it up and started playing well. I just feel a lot with this team, you get what you get with them. Like what you see out of the chute against a bad, they come out there feeling good against a bad team. And
I largely agree with that.
You know,
I think especially when they start bad, it doesn't generally turn around. Now, that Minnesota game was the opposite. They started good and then finished bad. They couldn't do anything in the fourth quarter. But for the most part, I would agree with you. I've seen them have, you know, not much success in the first quarter of games, and it doesn't generally just magically turn around. And hopefully with the coaching change, we won't see as much of that. See a little bit more consistency with production.
Well, Spee is weighing in here via email. Happy 4th. I appreciate that. He said, hey, Matisse, amazing episode when Joe met her mom, right? I don't know what that means.
Who is this?
Spee. Spee writing in about
Good deep pull right there.
He said, anyway, if MLB wears a Maglio jersey during the pitch, it will be the height of hypocrisy, and I hope you call her out.
That's a good point.
Not a jersey. But I would allow the exception.
Because don't you have to wear, like, to do that? Wouldn't that
so.
sort of be something they give
you?
you?
She can't go out, like, all glammed up like Meg Morant, like, in her WWE.
Oh, they can't do that.
All that, like,
can't throw
craziness.
in that. You make a wrong move, and all of a sudden it's Janet Jackson.
You gotta just keep smelling it now.
I miss Megan. I was excited for her, though. That's
MLB,
pretty cool.
man.
Cody in Indiana weighs in. Hey, guys, I have an over-under for Paul. What are the chances of getting a Pats from the past featuring none other than Tom Brady? Over under 25%. Just want to. That series is awesome, and you guys do a great job with it.
I'll take the under, but that doesn't mean that we won't try.
Yeah, you should.
Like you know what?
That might be a live taping.
Well, here's the thing: is
video.
My guess is in the coming years we're going to have Tom Brady here on, I would say, multiple occasions to honor him. And I would never say never. If we can get him, just
Wait, he's who's honored?
Tom Brady. Who's honored?
You're honored. You got it.
Your family's honored.
Sorry, every now and then some nonsense.
No. You have to
I had to
apologize.
tee you up.
You have to apologize to me for that because I didn't get it immediately. That's on me. That
honor,
bro. That wasn't on you.
Fred
that was on me.
Fred would have chimed right
in. But
who's honor?
Your honor.
I was playing the role of the straight man in that one.
Excuse me, Tom. Who's honor?
But he's going to be here, and I would say there's always when you have the guy already here, there's always a chance. Now I would say less than 25% because not sure. That's something that's on his radar. I like to sit down for a half hour, 45 minutes with Matt Smith and Paul Perillo,
I'm sure it would be good. I don't know how really good it would be. Like, he seems kind of guarded. Maybe it could be good, but I'm going to say now, why not get if you could get Vrabel, at some point when that happens.
We'll absolutely try to get him.
A great one.
And we have a couple in the works that we're trying to get. I'm not going to say the names in case they don't end up coming to fruition, but there should be a couple, at least one. In the near future, like within the next couple of weeks.
Like Mike Cloud, maybe. Getting those.
Another deep cut right there. This is good.
Well, I had a question for you. Maybe I can do it on the air to tease. So, gonna try to do a 2003 podcast like I did for 2001, and I was, trying to build the roster of people to interview, and Mike Cloud just popped up as a name to me of like who would be kind of an interesting perspective of a guy who just kind of was here for 1 year, didn't really, but was somehow involved in it. But
Tennessee game, right?
I don't know if that's any
Wasn't
of
it
any
the Tennessee
interest.
game that he exploded?
He had a couple. I think he had like 5 or 6 touchdowns during the year. I don't know. If there are players you think from 2003 you'd really like to hear from that 2003-04, that was what I was kind of looking. I mean, Copen is an interesting one because he was a rookie, kind of coming in, but teeing that up a little bit. And if you guys have ideas, please send them my way. I got to read this one, though. Chris from New Hampshire weighing in about our favorite restaurant. Tease, you're Jersey Mike's guy? Or how big are you? You're not as big as us.
You got me onto it.
Now you have the king of Jersey Mike's re-entering the studio.
Cut that meat. Y'all have convinced me to give Jersey Mike's a second chance. Went years ago, and oh boy, it was awful. I've just finished eating the super sub Mike's way. Good for you, taking down a super sub. And will admit, I'm rather pleased. I'm planning on trying the Big Kahuna next. Does anyone have a must-try recommendation?
Oh, is the super sub a specific sub?
I think you're right. Originally, I mistook that as
the size. I was thinking of it the size.
That's what I thought.
Because I don't know. I'm not.
But I think super sub maybe has all the meats.
Why are we asking questions? Why are we wondering? Evan, what is the super sub?
He knows football film and Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
I believe it's the one that has like the 7 different types of meats or whatever it is that they have on the
yes, please
on the menu, right? You know, like ham and roast beef and turkey and I believe
too much meat.
And what's the Big Kahuna?
That one I think is like
Hawaiian.
It's a warm. I think it's like a chicken or cheesesteak style
teriyaki maybe.
Yeah. It's something. It's a grilled sub. It's not a cold cut.
Steak and cheese, hot peppers. Keep it simple.
The Chipotle steak and cheese is really
delicious.
good.
That's my
really
favorite,
really good.
If I'm going that direction.
I'm not a cold sandwich guy. So
Well, I
I'm gonna
generally
get
go
hot
with the
subs.
13, but that's just straight Italian.
All right, I finally got a Star Wars question, and Paul, you're just gonna have to humor us here for a second.
It's
and
okay.
I'm
a team player. I can play along.
I'd love Matt Morrell to weigh in on this too. So Matt, listen up. Hey gang, earlier this week I went to see Return of the Jedi in the theaters for the 40th anniversary of Episode 6. I'll ask a Star Wars question. Thank you, Eric. What's your favorite Star Wars movie and why? There you go.
That's a
pretty
very
easy.
broad question.
Maybe a basic answer, but mine is Episode 5. Just love seeing Vader versus Luke. May the 4th be with you, and go Pats. Evan.
I have an opinion about how
Good.
we label the episodes.
Perfect.
Okay, it's 1 through 3 and everything else. Like I understand the diehard Star Wars fans. I shouldn't say that. I don't know what the diehard.
You mean 4, 5, 6, and everything else?
Yeah. Right. There's no.
Okay. Don't scare me because that's Morell's take.
There's no like 4, 5, 6 is not 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6 is 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
All right. The prequels and the new ones don't count. Okay. That's my.
You think that strongly against them? They don't even count.
Yes, they're good movies.
You're about to get choked out by a former Marine.
Yes.
There's
former Marines.
there are good qualities about the prequels and the new ones, but the original trilogy is the original trilogy, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no touching the originals. That's all I'm saying.
So
and that's coming from somebody that is too young to have seen them like when they originally came out too. And I'm telling you that.
What was that like, Paul?
I told you I saw Star Wars when it originally came out in the theater.
Like 50 cents
in the theater.
I'm a Empire Strikes Back guy.
I mean,
but
Empire's
the
classic.
thing is, like I was so young because my grandparents had the VHS, so that's like what I watched growing up. But I remember seeing
Special edition
Attack of the Clones in theaters, and I loved it.
Yeah.
But now when I look back, I'm like, it's kind of trash.
Matt, anything to say? He's bright red. He looks
he's
angry.
fuming.
Phantom Menace is my favorite Star Wars movie.
No, it's not.
Absolutely is. It's awesome.
The dialogue is your favorite Star Wars movie.
That movie introduced
Sand.
the double-sided lightsaber.
Do you just
It
really
had
like
great
Sand?
That was
fights,
episode
new
2.
Force uses.
Yippee!
It's epic.
I loved
yeah.
Force Awakens until the others came out. Now I don't really like it anymore.
So I'm with
I just
you
hate
guys.
on those movies because CGI was new and overused.
I will agree.
It's
I will
a
agree
product
with
of
Marine
the year it came out.
Poor
on
Paul.
this. Phantom Menace was the first Star Wars that my generation got to see in theaters and do that whole thing with.
Yeah.
So that as a kid, I probably watched Phantom Menace 100 times because what did I know about the quality of the movie? There's lightsabers, there's gunfights, there's they're flying
racing.
around and
Yeah.
things.
Oh, the pod
like
racing.
what more could you as an 8-year-old kid? What more could you possibly want?
Also, best movie poster ever is probably that one.
There was so much hype. I'm Empire. I had a record of Empire that I used to just listen to, so that whole movie's burning in my brain. I also would just shout out Rogue One and the whole Mando thing. Like I just think that stuff
Andor.
has been amazing. Andor, that was great too.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace gave us Duel of the Fates. It's the best soundtrack in Star Wars.
So I got to
Come
take
on.
on this. I knew this was going to come
You
up.
see what you've done.
I knew this was going to come up. And I think the reason you can't take that away from Matt is because, and for you guys, is that you saw it as kids. So that was like, so at the time you weren't like judging a movie from that. So it's
I was there to
ingrained
have
to you as a favorite. There's plenty of movies I watched as a kid that are terrible now. But I would just say, like, I was like a college senior when Phantom Menace came out, and I'm a big Star Wars nerd. Was so excited. I bought like the soundtrack. I'm listening to Duel of the Fates. I'm like, this is gonna be so awesome. And then it's just like right as I'm graduating from college, we actually had like one of the final nights at Holy Cross. Everybody dressed up, so we went. Me and all my buddies, all as Star Wars, we put a keg on rollerblades with duct tape.
R2-D2?
And rolled the keg in as R2-D2. That's how like excited we all were. And then I went and I saw it and I was like, what?
Yeah. It's just amazing, like talking to people, my age with Marine and stuff. Like our view of Phantom Menace is so much different than
respect it,
people that were a little bit older than us when it came out. And that I think is really interesting. I love Empire. The first like hour of Return of the Jedi though is fantastic in my mind. I think that was the first real introduction to like
Princess
Luke.
Leia in a bikini. Oh, sorry.
I was too young for that, Mike.
Were you?
But the first that like Luke is like a full on Jedi at that point, right? So he's when he takes down Jabba the Hutt, that right there was like my iconic scene. As a kid, just remembering him, do the flip and grab the lightsaber and just go on
that's a
absolute tear.
moment.
You're putting Paul to sleep, right?
Yeah,
I know. We better get off of this before we lose.
No, not at all.
Paulie.
That was fantastic.
Not at all. I will say this, the Phantom Menace when it came out, it was a little bit before I started here, and Fred, who is, I think Matt, you're probably the only one that would blow Fred away in terms of your just fandom for Star Wars. He declared it a day off for the entire department. He had the intern at the time go stand it because this is before all the onset of all the online and phones and all that stuff. So he had an intern go and stand in line and get tickets for everybody, and it was required that they all went.
Love that.
Team building.
And they all went. Brian Morey was still here. I'm guessing Mike Reese was still here. Some of the people behind the scenes in production and design, they all went to Phantom Menace. Because Fred declared it a requirement.
Yeah.
It was
Had we not been on the air for the draft, we would have been all at Patriot Place watching Return of the Jedi.
I would have gone.
We all.
You would have been there too.
Love
I would have
that
dragged you.
No, you wouldn't have been.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Chris from Colfax here, who writes in. He says my personal favorite is Revenge of the Sith, which for me is the only that's okay. That one's pretty good. Lightsaber battle choreography is incredible in the prequels, particularly number 3. However, more importantly, Lord of the Rings is better. You get out of here right
absolutely
now.
Not. Oh my goodness. But Revenge of the Sith, my cousin, he's 18 and he's really into Star Wars, more the new stuff obviously than the old stuff. But that's the one movie that my aunt is like, I'll watch that one with him. Like that one's actually like pretty good. But he loves Kylo Ren and like all the new villains and he's a villains
Don't you
guy.
just want to go up to a kid and be like, no, it's terrible. Stop.
So he went to.
It's not terrible.
He went to Star
I
Wars
love Kylo Ren. He's badass.
in Disney, and he made a lightsaber at the lightsaber thing, and he made a red lightsaber, and I couldn't go because during the season, and he comes home with it, and I'm like checking it out. I'm like, this thing's super cool, and I was like, oh, of course it's red, like because Darth Vader and Kylo are his two favorites, and my parents and my aunt are like, wait. Like it's like the villains, it's red because he likes evil people. Like this is not good. And I was like, let the kid live. Like whatever he wants.
I tell you, I've been to the Disneyland make your own lightsaber factory, and it's like super cool. I was nerding out. All of a sudden, I was 6 years old again because I grew up with like a flashlight. Like you're making the noise. You never really actually have. Now they have like these real ones that look real. All right,
the Disney ones are the Disney lightsabers are insane. The one he has.
Listen, you're not losing me. You guys, when someone writes in and gives me a quiz on past Patriots numbers, you guys don't storm off the set. I mean,
no, I just
whatever.
sit in awe of your knowledge. But we will just jump back to the phones real quick because Christian's been hanging on. Hey, Christian, how are you? Christian. Oh,
lost him.
No, nothing.
Still there?
Oh man, he probably zoned out about the Star Wars stuff.
Good job, Hardy.
Let's keep it going though. Patty Agawam. Hey, Patty.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How we doing?
Yeah, Star Wars a little bit. Get us off it.
All right. I'll throw a Star Wars opinion out, but I wanted to throw out an opinion I had. It was the other night. It might have been the marijuana that was making me think about this, but you know how we always say, look at what Bill does. Don't listen to what he says. And I think
just from my perspective, I think the whole Mac thing got blown out of proportion. Just because I think if it was really that bad, if it was really that toxic, I mean, we've seen him bench Malcolm Butler in the biggest game of the friggin' year. He knew he had a quarterback that could play sitting behind Mac. So I think if it was really that bad as like it got blown up to be, that he would have just started Bailey for like 3 or 4 of the last games. But I'll say I do.
What if it wasn't his choice?
Really well, maybe you might be right, Paul, but
I'm just giving another side of it. I'm not necessarily giving you what my view of that is, but it may not have been his choice.
Well, we've also heard Robert say that, like, he
loves
Bill
him,
do the football thing.
But he also has said many times that he loves Mac.
That's true.
Bill hasn't.
I love Fred Warner.
Before I get to my Star Wars
Deuce
point,
does
Paul,
well.
I'll
Deuce is a big.
throw a quick one at you. who was known as the Undertaker?
What's that? I missed the question.
What former Patriot player was known as the Undertaker?
Oh, Vincent Brown.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
So I liked Phantom Menace. I was 22 when it came out. I thought it was actually not that bad of a movie. I mean, I think.
All right, thanks for calling.
I think this is one of the greatest calls that we've ever had. I mean, he touched on current day Patriots with Mac and Bill, old school with Vincent Brown, and now he brings it back on topic with Star Wars. I mean, I think this is a great.
Buy some Jordan's furniture, you get it for free.
The
Patty,
cycle's 4
well
hits,
done.
I have to say, not 3.
Well done, Patty.
But, you know, Jar Jar was annoying, and I think too many people talking about things getting overblown. I mean, if you take Jar Jar out of the movie, it's a really good movie. And as far as, like, the new sequel series, I thought The Force Awakens was definitely the best of the bunch. I think they really missed the boat on The Last Jedi. You know, that's just my opinion. And, of course, this may sound ridiculous. Like, I think Godfather 2 is a better movie, but Godfather 1's my favorite of the series in the same sense, like, the original Star Wars is my favorite movie of all time, but I will admit that Empire is a better movie, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point.
I think so.
Yeah.
It totally makes
All right,
sense.
that's all I got.
Thanks, Patty.
Thanks.
I just don't think you can qualify the first one as like being part of the judgment of what's the best one, because there wouldn't be any of this without that one. It just kind of stands above that, you know.
What if I told you that?
What if I told you?
The only one I've
What is this,
actually
the 30 for
seen
30?
is the very first one.
That'd be all right, Paul. You got things to do. Although DJ chimes in, Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie, and I'm old enough to say that. Keon White is going to be a monster, and you guys are the best podcast in existence. Thanks for picking me up twice to thrice.
Another great email.
Oh, week. Another great one.
Well, we have very differing opinions on the first 2 things he said, so I'm surprised that he thinks that
Evan,
we're so great.
Lee chimes in and said, I really liked Evan until he said he was 8 when The Phantom Menace came out. Get off my lawn, Lazar.
Yeah, I say it all the time. They're all out to get me.
I think I might have been even younger.
They're all out to get me.
I want to say Phantom Menace was 98.
It was 99.
99, so I was 7.
It was just before I started working here.
7.
It was 10.
99.
Yeah.
Oh, Robert in San Diego via Connecticut just chimed in and said the best Star Wars movie is clearly Spaceballs. You've seen Spaceballs.
Spaceballs is a classic.
Right?
Schwartz.
Your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Rogue One is fantastic, but like it's not the greatest Star Wars movie of all. No. Like let's relax with that. It's a great.
It's good.
It's the best of the new ones by far.
Is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's dark, and you're like, at a certain point in that movie, you're like, are they all gonna die? Like, is this really going where I think it's going?
It's crazy. They cut out like what, an hour of it, Matt? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, it was a disaster. There were a lot of like, shots from like them running across the beach,
like
getting
D-Day
shot
beach
at, and it
scene
never
for Star
actually
Wars,
happened.
Yeah.
Recuts.
Yeah.
But hey, it all worked out, right?
And then the end scene with Vader and the whole thing, the movie,
Spoilers
the
for
movie is
Paul.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Paul ain't seen that movie.
I was like
Paul hasn't even seen the 2 and 3. He's not going to go watch Rogue One.
I just want to imagine Paul that like he saw the original Star Wars and Empire. He probably had some friends that were excited to go see it. He's like, man, I'm good.
No, I liked it.
She's like, I'm drinking. I got girls. I'm not.
No, I went with my grandmother. Actually, took my brother and I to see it, and we all liked it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I was a little older when Empire came out, and I was kind of not really as interested. It doesn't. I wish that I had a passion for it like you guys do. Really, for anything. No, I mean, it's just not my thing. Like Matt makes fun of me all the time. It's the same with all the comic book, like the superhero movies, and I like what is it? 20? Is it 23 of them? How many of the Marvel?
We're in the
movies?
30s now.
30s. Like
it's too much.
You got time for that?
I've probably seen 5 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I've never seen one that I came out. Oh my God, I can't believe I just watched it. No, they're entertaining. I enjoy them. It's just not.
That
my
was
thing.
number 23 on my shirt.
It's just not my thing.
That's a lot. And Reno emails in and says, on this day, may the 4th be with you. I've got to say, I've never seen a single Star Wars movie, and I'm 28, so it's not like I'm young. Can Marine Matt and Deuce and everybody else explain why one day I should watch them? I'm not going to say you should watch all of them. Just watch the original Star Wars. It's just
Don't do it. If you don't appreciate it, I don't want you watching it. Go somewhere else.
Love that too.
I'm saying if you had the 3 years of the pandemic and you didn't watch it, just don't bother.
Yeah, well, I mean, it might not be your thing, but I don't think anybody's going to be mad to sit through A New Hope and feel like I've just burned hours of my life. It's an easy watch.
The best thing I guess I can say about it is like, I don't know. I was obviously a nerd, as you could probably tell as a kid, and that was like living out. They lived out in the movie what like you would live out if you were in space and like you were in that world, right? Like you could put yourself in their shoes and be like, dang, it would be like super cool to like fly around the Millennium Falcon and like do all this crazy stuff. And that was like what got me into it 100%. Was I had all the lightsabers and you all the stuff as a kid, and you just like put yourself in that world and you immerse yourself in it, and you're like, oh yeah, this is.
Yeah, I used to take my Han Solo guy and I'd put him in a cup of water and I'd freeze him, and then I'd wait, like 7 hours later, I'd be like, okay, he's frozen, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna melt him out now. Yeah. Not a lot of bang for the buck, kind of like lobster.
I was more of a Luke guy. I'm not gonna lie.
What year did Empire Strikes Back come out?
80.
80?
Yeah. I think it was 80 and 83 or 4 for
because it was 40. I think it was 77, right, for the original.
77, 80.
So like I'm just thinking, I was 9.
Wow.
And then 12. Like to me, there's a little bit of a difference there. Maybe I just wasn't as interested in going to see at that time, because
Well, you were probably like into girls and boosting cars.
Correct.
At that point.
Well, boosting cars, not so much. And completely infatuated with
playing with
the
my
first part of
lightsaber
that.
and acting like
I bet
was
you were
Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I bet you were playing with something.
All right, he's back. Christian from LA. Hey, Christian, thanks for calling back in.
You guys are terrible.
Hey guys, may the 4th
old.
be with you.
Thank you.
I remember how important Star Wars was to me, because in this galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago, which was the past, I was flabbergasted by the fact that everyone had British accents. I'm like, how the hell was the British Empire that far back? And so eventually,
you just ruined Star Wars for us. Thanks.
Eventually, I saw the one and only person of African descent like me in the movies. Billy D. Williams as
Lando
Calrissian. And let me tell you, I went as Lando Calrissian for the next 5 years.
Great character.
So may the 4th be with you guys. And I just wish that this year for us, for our team, my over-under is, I believe that the addition of Juju and those guys, and maybe our 2 flyers pan out, I think we're at 10 wins. I'll let you guys take it from there. But may the 4th be with you guys always.
Thank you.
Sir.
Appreciate it. Just to share, I use a Lando quote a lot that it just comes out of me. Is, hello, what do we hear?
Yeah.
What have we hear? That's my.
I actually really liked. I know Solo is something that is a very touchy subject, I think, for a lot of Star Wars people about it actually being good or not. But I loved the scenes of like young Lando and like getting to understand how they became friends, and because he just kind of comes out of nowhere in the originals, and it's just like, oh, I just have this buddy named Lando who can help us. So it's just cool to get those types of backstories.
Solo's a good movie. It got screwed on its release date.
I agree. I thought Solo was pretty solid as well. I saw it in theaters.
Did you ever see anybody as angry about this?
We went to Jordan's Furniture in Natick and saw it in the IMAX. Me and my cousin. I really enjoyed it, actually. I did.
So how many of the movies, Morel, you're probably not a good gauge on this, but how many of the Star Wars movies did you guys actually physically go to a theater to see?
I think everything from Phantom Menace on.
Yeah, I've seen all 9 of all 9.
You too?
I think I've seen all of them.
Because I was thinking maybe, as an excuse for myself, which obviously is not an excuse at all because you guys just blew it up. Then you always, you had no other alternative.
Well,
you weren't getting a DVD. You weren't plugging it in your VCR. You weren't waiting for it to come out on Netflix. Like, you had to go to the theater to see it.
Yeah, well, it's been three.
But you guys all did that, so
well, it's been
my
three.
theory is blown up.
Well, it's three separate things for me because as a kid, I went with my parents going to the theater, and I guess they took me to Empire Strikes Back a bunch. They said. Then I was like in my 20s, like graduating college in my 20s, and it was like, we were like, just everybody was so excited. But then these last ones, it's been cool because I have kids, and you get to like experience it with them and share the passion you have for it. I mean, I'm far more connected with my kids about Star Wars than the Patriots. Like,
that's how I feel with my cousin.
Yeah.
Any of the Batmans or Spider-Man, any of those that I've seen, it's all been taking my kids. Batman versus Superman. Like I said, every one of them I've gone to see. I've never left and said, I can't believe I just wasted my money on that. No, it's
just how it worked
fine.
out.
What was the one that came out in 05? Was it I Have the High Ground and again? I forget the name of it.
Attack of the Clones?
Nope, the one
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. I saw that at the Wellfleet Drive-In. It was a double feature, and that was first. I was so excited, and then The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler was on after, and I liked that way more.
The original Longest Yard was.
I think if they remade
tremendous.
Revenge of the Sith, they could really knock it out of the park. If they really wanted to take it to the next level. Speed chiming in about Andor. Yes, Andor was very good. It was like an adult Star Wars show. Not all the fan service kind of stuff, but just probably a good TV show. All right, I'm trying to find some football stuff here.
No, it's okay. This is more entertaining.
Do you have any?
Now you're embracing the off-season shows.
There you go.
Well, if it's about Star Wars
and Jersey Mike's,
just so you know, a lot of our off-season shows are about Star Wars.
Yeah.
What was up with Gesicki though?
We talked about Star Wars for the whole time. No, I'm
Did
just
he hit
kidding.
the gritty?
He did mention that he's just gonna let it come natural, right? He's not.
Wait, who asked him about this?
Multiple people.
Not surprised at all.
Yeah, he did say that he's not ruling it out. That he's not saying like, oh, it's dead. I'm not gonna do it. He said he's not ruling it out. Somebody did ask him if he compared his to Mac Jones's yet, and there was that kind of back and forth. But I think the two things that stood out about him were, he just looks like an athlete, which we knew because he's a great athlete. I mean, he tested out of the moon at the combine when he came out of Penn State, but looks the part, right? Just come in the room, tall, athletic build, just exactly what you would expect. And I thought it was interesting what he was saying about the connections that he has to Bill O'Brien and to this offense, with Chad O'Shea and some of the Patriot coaches that were down there with Brian Flores in Miami, and that Bill O'Brien recruited him to Penn State. Didn't actually coach him at Penn State because he went to the Texans before that, but recruited him to Penn State. So he said he kind of just picked up right where they left off back in 2013 on those recruiting visits and things like that. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I think we all know that to beat out Johnny Smith's production is not really going to take a whole lot out of Mike Gesicki, but I think that he's one of those guys that seems like he's buying in immediately to the program. The last thing that he did say that's probably it's the most impression tweet so far from the press conference on my feed, and that is that he was roommates with Mac Jones for a little while. When he first got to New England back in March, he was living in Mac and Sophie's basement. So that was the big one, I think, as well as some bonding.
Hasn't seen him since.
Yeah,
he said that the Mac's got a pretty good setup.
Yeah.
Over there.
Oh.
We're not going to say where. We're going to say over there.
Pretty good setup.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now you got a tight end living with us. Sorry,
Yeah.
I had to go into my Sophie.
Why is she like a
I don't
Southern
know.
belle?
I don't know. But that's my character, and I'm sticking to it. That she's just like
It is so bizarre.
Sorry to go back to Star Wars for a second, but Spee chimes in, and Spee, credit to you for all the great emails. But he says Jedi is my favorite of them all, but adding the CGI to the episodes was a national tragedy. They ruined the band in Jabba's palace and the Ewok Yub Nub song. I agree 100%. Like the changes
guys,
that they went back and made, it just like takes me out of it.
Well, let me ask you guys this question.
You guys are missing the visual of the utter disgust that Morrell has with every passing email. It's so priceless.
How dare you? Kid Evan really wonders this a lot about this. What was the difference between Jar Jar and the Ewoks? Because like they're both kind of these like annoying like Disney-esque things that like we really don't need. I don't know. I just
now Morrell's going to say, "Well, if you don't know, I'm not going to explain."
You could see the steam coming out of his ears.
No, I'm just saying. Like I think Jar Jar is worse. Don't
You're
get me wrong.
complaining that they turned the lightsaber blue instead of white. Really?
It's clearly worse. But I'm just saying like. I don't even know what he's saying.
Great line. That's a great line, Morrell.
We're on video, Matt. It supports your. If you want to take.
He should be sitting here. I mean, he's.
No, it's more fun to just watch him get worked up.
Actually, you should be sitting where I'm sitting. Then you guys could have your little talks.
Star Wars Unfiltered.
Of monsters.
Your little
and
talks.
I think Jar Jar gets an unfair shake.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
well, I mean, and someone, I just lost the email here, like Fred, they're not magically deleting, but somebody mentioned that at one point the plan was to have Jar Jar be
It was always Jar Jar.
the ultimate bad guy.
The
which
villain, right?
It was always Jar Jar.
Jar was going to be the ultimate Sith.
Yeah, and then they
He was racist and they had to
you
change
said
it.
You said that on the show. He was so hated that they had
Oh,
to
that
change.
when we were eating the draft food the other night.
Yeah, I knew. See,
there's nothing about him that looks intimidating or
Steel
like
trap.
good as a villain. Like
No.
you're never like you can't. That would have been a bad call. Let's jump back to the phones here real quick as we come down the home stretch with Jake in Georgia. Hey, Jake, thanks for calling in.
Hey guys, Star Wars fan. Unfortunately, I grew up not actually watching any of it, but during COVID, I was Spike TV. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna watch the entire original trilogy all at once. Ended up loving it, and The Force Awakens was coming out, and that took my fandom to a whole new level. I would say that I really despise Star Wars fans. No one's like, there's no consensus.
Because I am rolling my eyes heavy at you.
There's no consensus on like what's good out there for Star Wars except Andor, Rogue One, and the original trilogy. Everyone can debate in between, but I would say The Force Awakens and like the new Star Wars added some great stuff that I really love. The combat and the mythology of like the Jedi, and the prequels ended up like adding some nuance to Star Wars because the original Star Wars, in my opinion, it's okay. But I would say we should be talking about Dune.
Dune?
What are we talking about?
I'm excited for Dune. So
Dune? And the original Star Wars
Matt
is just okay.
Matt,
I love it.
Morel had Morel exec decision that one. And just,
I'm ready for Dune.
If I was running it, I would have been doing the same thing.
Dune was a little weird. I mean, I watched the David Lynch version of Dune growing up, and
that's-
thinking like maybe you're getting a Star Wars sci-fi kind of thing, and then everybody's like talking about spice and sandworms and
Floating boogers.
the South Park Spice version.
Not my cup of tea, but thank you. I mean, we certainly have gotten a lot of people chiming in about the Star Wars, and I mean, it's fun. You got so much to discuss. But I agree, like there's just so many hot takes, and if you like it, you like it. All right, I might as well. I'm not wrapping up yet, but I got to read this one. Trent writes in about soap on a slot.
Yeah.
Freddie, we might have a product that combines your soap with a slot with the ever popular loofah. Picture it, if you will, a loofah with a slot to put a soap in. No more wasting soap slivers. Stick them in the slot. Sick of always adding soap to your loofah? Problem solved. With the loofah pocket, suds will never run out. $1 million idea, you say? It's all yours in exchange for a PU shirt. So there have been a lot of emails about PU shirts, and Matt, I think we have to figure out a way to distribute those. But I would say I think we'd all agree that we'll try to get at training camp. If you're able to make it out to training camp, I think we'll be.
That's where we got to give you the cannon.
We'll be ready.
Well, I'm gonna get the T-shirt.
Yeah,
gun.
Tisa's been efforting a T-shirt cannon,
Those
which are
things-
surprisingly expensive.
Paul, guess how much a T-shirt gun is. Please just guess.
I'm gonna say $800.
That's right on the dot.
I told him what it was. But you want to come out? You want Paul to shoot you in the face with a T-shirt gun? We'll make it happen. Whatever you need. We just signed one today too. We signed a T-shirt.
We did.
We'll sign them. Just be careful how many times you wash it, because I don't know how well they hold up in the water.
What was that?
Nothing. What? All right, this one just came up, but I'm going to mention it. The 501st Legion. You guys have heard about that. That's like a whole band of 20,000 stormtroopers that go and do things. That might be kind of fun to get here at a Patriots game, perhaps. Back to football, though.
Were you just talking English?
I don't know.
What was that?
I have no idea what you
I don't
just
know.
said.
I feel like Audrey right now is grinding her gear, like I'm grinding her gears with my performance here down the stretch.
She spends a lot of time in your head. I'll tell you that.
I apologize. Question regarding Kendrick Bourne from Alex P. I was wondering with Kendrick Bourne if he has a clean slate for last year, and if you think Billy O gets the best out of him, or is he just another guy who could be first to go when the opportunity arises? I think he's an interesting guy. What do you guys think? Just how he's going to fit in here.
I think that there's two sides to Kendrick Bourne. There's the one side where a lot of this fan base thinks that he's Jerry Rice, and that side I can't get on board with. But I do think that there's a world where Kendrick Bourne emerges as that third guy that he was supposed to be last year and was towards the end of 2021.
Sure.
But I still think that he's a good number 3 receiver in a good offense that is a complementary piece more than somebody that you're going to funnel things through. But I'm not ruling out Kendrick Bourne getting back to where he was. I know that there's...
Nope. I agree.
That's where I'm at.
The only thing I would say on the negative side with Kendrick Bourne would be if, like, the 2 kids that they took in the 6th round, we talked about a lot of ifs, if this, if that, the more ifs you have, the probably the worse. But let's just say those 2 guys are home runs and they both work out. I think Kendrick Bourne is a candidate to go in that scenario. But I can absolutely see him getting back to the way he was 2 years ago and last like he was as an afterthought last year.
Is he on a contract year?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to ball up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that
if they let him,
I think that his ceiling isn't anywhere near as high as a lot of people that follow the Patriots. Like every game that they lost last year is because Kendrick Bourne wasn't actively involved in the game plan.
Yeah, I mean that the big Kendrick Bourne highlight that I always go back to is the touchdown against the Titans, where it looked like he was probably should have gotten tackled like 6 times, but like somehow just made it down the sideline. And I think that people look at that and are like, oh, here's your yards after catch guy. It's like, no, I just think that play was kind of fluky,
that's
to
bad,
be honest.
Bad Titans, not good Kendrick.
Yeah.
No, but I will say that he can play. Like he has shown the ability to play in the NFL. Yep. I just think that people think that, like Evan said, he's like shown the ability to be Deebo Samuel in the NFL, and he's not. Like he's just kind of
that Bengals game last year when they finally did let him play and he made those acrobatic catches down the field. He can definitely be in a good offense, right? A weapon in a good offense. I just don't know what ring on the totem pole is he going to be, right? I don't think he's going to be a number 1. Maybe he's a number 2 if he really hits the potential, but they still don't really necessarily have somebody above him.
It's like a bigger question for me. I'd love to. You never could ask Bill O'Brien this question, but just what is the process as an offensive coordinator when you come into a new system and you say, all right, here's the pieces that you have. We've got some draft picks. We've got some free agency capital. What do you think we need to do with that to complement what we have? Because I'm sure you arrive places and you're like, I don't like this guy. I can't use him in my offense. Or, oh, this guy can really do more in my offense because of reasons X, Y, Z. Those are the things that. What intrigues him about the pieces that are in place, and how much of an impact did he have on Gesicki, on Juju, like those kind of moves? Was that targeted because of Bill O'Brien, or was that just a kind of a general move of, all right, well, this is these are apples to oranges, we're going to get a little bit of an upgrade on Jacoby, or this is a receiving tight end that we think can do more than maybe that kind of thing, but. I just am interested how he kind of views this and what he's planning on doing.
It's also just wonky, like because you don't know how long he's going to be here for. I mean, you think it might be a couple years, but I think to the point with Mac, Josh McDaniels is his offensive coordinator his rookie season, then McDaniels leaves and goes to the Raiders, and here we are, right? So do you go out and sign guys with Bill O'Brien's system in mind and then recognizing that if it goes well here for Bill O'Brien, he's probably going to get a head job, maybe not in the NFL, maybe back in college, but at some point in the next 2 years, I would think that somebody's going to probably look at, oh, well, he rehabilitated Mac Jones and look at the Patriots offense with before him and then after him. There's a clear difference, and now all of a sudden he's a head coach again somewhere.
Yeah, Bill in Vista says, the Big Kahuna is a hot chicken and cheese and peppers with jalapenos. Come on, Evan, you need to study more.
I knew it was some sort of hot sandwich and not a cold.
I think you even said chicken.
Yeah, I did.
This is a good one from David. Subject, Paul's snark lives on. I've noticed that when I'm reading a football take online or in real life, I can immediately come up with a snarky Paul answer. For example, I like him, but not at 14, and I immediately think, so you don't like him. I just want to say thanks for that, Paul.
There's truth to that.
Have you? Does that consistently happen throughout your life? You get into people's heads and you.
Oh, I don't. I hope not. I don't know, but I don't know the answer to that.
Lots of Star Wars stuff. Lots of PU T-shirt questions. And Sam from Kentucky weighs in. He never got his T-shirt, Matt Morrell.
I'm getting through everybody's T-shirts that I haven't sent out yet. If you haven't got a T-shirt, send me in your address.
Yeah.
So just to let people know a little bit that like there was someone in the organization who's recently left, and she was heavily involved in the process of distributing stuff. Mm-hmm. So we didn't really realize that. And I think Matt is now doubling.
I'm playing catch up.
playing catch up.
She just wasn't there.
She's not there anymore.
I like ketchup.
All right, we're coming down the stretch here, but this was funny. Our junior high school
You're
principal.
petering out a little bit here, Mike.
All right, dang it.
Pick it up.
I didn't want to.
Come on,
our junior
Audrey.
high school principal, in honor of Star Wars, rented a movie called Ice Pirates, full of sexual innuendo and the never forgotten space herpy. I just was thinking of all the stupid spin-offs that they did. Like I remember like Buckaroo Banzai, like in the 80s, like these movies. It's like you're seeing now with Marvel. Like everything, like something's a hit, and then everybody's got to try to make like a B kind of spin-off version, like. All those Netflix movies that are like have The Rock in, like everyone has The Rock in them somehow.
Everything's
and
a
you can tell
variation
they
of the
shot
Hunger
it in
Games.
2 different locations with a green screen, but there's like these big actors in
Well,
it.
it's like that. Everything on Netflix. If something goes viral on Netflix, this is great new TV show, and there's like 6 different versions of it. Or Netflix is in the true crime like category.
Yeah.
Netflix just has 10 true crime things every week that's new, and it's like I like that one true crime thing, but like let's not get crazy.
Murder shows,
right?
Murder shows. They're all over the place.
Well, I mean, there's so many movies that are like remakes of old TV shows, and it just feels like
it's nothing new.
Feels like you and your ilk, Mike.
We get it. We get it.
Lacking the creativity.
Yeah, come on, Mike.
No, I know that's part of the reason that was just annoying, because it's like, oh, this is an established identity. This is an established property. Like we can remake this instead of you have people trying to come up with creative, clever, new ideas like. I mean, it's something like Game of Thrones, where it's like this is established. You know what it is. You've got a built-in audience. But if somebody came in and tried to pitch you that fantasy show, you'd be like,
So we get it.
too much.
He was doubted, and now he's a chosen one, and he's gonna do well. That's every show.
They're all the same. I know.
He's the chosen one,
starring The Rock. All right, that's gonna do it for us here on Thursday. Patriots Unfiltered. We'll continue next week. More free agents will be available. We're closing in on some OTAs. Probably we'll get a glimpse at some of these guys out on the field here in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next week.
Catch 22 is still coming.
Yeah, that too.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.